Hello, and I want to welcome you to this ArcWorlde painting hangout. We're going to have a few guests come along, I hope. At least they've said they want to. I am Dingham, aka Dogvin Bucklegan, and I'll be sort of running this thing. So if you're new to the hobby, if you're looking into ArcWorlde, have a look at the fantastic website that ArcWorlde does, warpluggedminiatures.com, and join in our Facebook group. There's a lot of nice people to meet there. A lot of us have been receiving brand new miniatures from the last year's Kickstarter, and most of us will probably be talking about that because we're super excited about it. So yeah, I hope you, if you're watching us, I hope you want to are going to enjoy it. Right, it's a bit before we said 8 p.m. UK time to start this hangout, but I got going like 15 minutes early just to make sure that everything works okay, and to welcome you who are watching this. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good time. I got my coffee, I got my lemonade, and yeah, everything seems to be in order for a good evening of hobby time. So the only thing I'm missing now is somebody to hang out with. Anyways, I'm going to be continue working on this thing flinger, and it is I did the woodwork last time, so yeah, that's my project for the evening. I haven't started my new models yet. Oops. But I will at some point get them done. It's not that. It's not that I don't want to. It's just that I got sort of like this regime going where I'm not allowing myself to paint up the new juicy models before I completed the project I got going, and the current project was the thing flinger, so I had to get that one done first. But once that's done, I have quite the selection of miniatures to work on. Right, so it seems like my brushes all have taken a bit of a beating and a bit split at the tip. So luckily, I'm not going to do any really detailed work tonight. I'm going to start over by looking at the rope work on this one. And after that, let's see where we go. Oops. Just looked a bit in. Got a bit of chipping already, so just had to cover that one up. Let's see. So yeah, I've been playing ArcWorlde for as long as the game has existed, and I started collecting even before there were a game. So this is sort of like a both the game and the hobby is a bit dear to me, because I sort of feel like I was there when I was born. So yeah, and I've tried to limit myself, but with so many great looking models, I always end up buying more models than I actually need. And it's I think that's part of being a hobbyist, isn't it? Ooh, it's a bit stiff, this one. Tight fit. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. I was painting this one the last time, and there are some very difficult to reach spots on it. And I've missed them, I can see. I think that's sort of like it's probably the case with all multi-parts miniatures that have very dynamic poses, well, not dynamic poses, but very complex designs where they cover it up, double over at some point, and with this one it's beneath the ropes. Stretch the catapult arm of the thing flinger, and yeah. Well, if anybody just tuning into this one don't know what Warplock or ArcWorlde is, it's a miniature game where you paint up miniatures and you use them to play a game with, and unlike board games, you don't have a set gaming table. It's something you make with having miniature trees, miniature buildings, and small hills and stuff like that placed on the tabletop, and you roll dice to see if you hurt each other, and based on like numeric values and how good they are. So naturally, a troll will be a lot stronger and can take a bigger beating than a human does, but it is so balanced out the point score. So if you want to have a play as a troll, you probably can only field a few trolls, but you can field many humans, and that way it evens out, at least in theory. It depends a bit on what forces you're selecting and how good they are matchups, or rather do not match up. Some may be a bad match for one or the other. So yeah, and you take turns in moving. It's basically just like any other game, but you do it with soldiers, with the toy soldiers. And for me, a lot of the hobby is the painting. That's why I've dedicated myself to paint up my own miniatures. I know a lot of people hire pro painters to paint up the miniatures for them, but at least with these miniatures, I really do enjoy them myself. So I like to, yeah, I like to paint them myself, and it's a bit more. It does boost a bit of self-esteem when you're putting it on the table and say, I painted these. So yeah, I've been doing miniature gaming for, well, on and off for quite a few years. So like the hobby that really caught my attention back in my younger years, and discovery was like mind-blowing. So this is exactly a type of game that I want to be doing. I always like gaming, particularly tabletop, well, board gaming, and it's like with real games, and not. I do like video gaming as well, but gaming has been always been something I enjoyed. And then when I also managed to find another part of the hobby, the artistic part, and have it set in a fantasy world. Fantasy was also something that really opened up my eyes as a kid. That genre of literature and entertainment. So, but living in Norway, you sort of like need to have the right people around you in order to enjoy it, because it's not very common. I know in like places like Britain, you can really expect people to know what it's all about. But here in Norway, you either know about it and it's like almost a geek about it, or you don't really know anything about it at all, and you just feel a bit stupid if you mention it to people. It's sort of like they don't really get what it's all about. So yeah, I was very pleased when I found out. Anyways, so and I've been through a few different miniature games, and they all have their ups and down parts. ArcWorlde is a skirmish game, so they don't field huge armies. You get only a small warband of 10 models, so it's an easy place to start. And so if you're just getting into the miniature hobby, it's an easy place to start, and you get a few models to paint up, and the rules are very quick to learn. I've played a few games with some friends of mine, and they are very quick to catch on. Suddenly they know what it's all about, and they sort of like know, right, now I can do this and I can do this, and that's what they look up the numeric values for their skills and stuff like that on their own. So like, no, all right, now this is happening, and it catches on very fast. So if you play a few games regularly, 3 or 4 games within a few weeks' time, you will be probably know the game. I think I really love about the ArcWorlde game is that you move models like you do in chess, where you move one piece each. So I take a turn, and then my opponent take a turn, and move one model, and do that model's actions. And once that model is done, he moves on to the next one, and we continue back and forth until every model in each side has one. You can't move the same model twice in a row under normal circumstances. So it makes it very dynamic. You have to sort of like react to whatever the other person is doing, and another thing that sort of like enhances that, it's when it's because of the scenarios. You play sort of objectives. You have to go to this and this spot, or hold this and this piece of terrain, or you have to go hunt down this and that model. It's a bit. It makes it you can actually win the game and have no models left at the end of it. You can be completely wiped out and still win, because it's other things that determine the winner than just slaughter points, and it's a very good combination of the alternating movement and the scenarios. So I really do enjoy the game, and I really enjoy the models. That's another thing that I said that I've been around since before the game. I've been following the game before it even was conceived, because I followed the man making the models on his blogs, and he was only 16, I think, when he started making models. 16 years old, and he made, can't really see it, but yeah, made these quite complicated models. There are some great interviews of him explaining how everything came to be, and yeah, it's really worth taking time out to watch. There was the one in the weekend just a few days ago, so that was a good one, where he explained about how everything started and how it went from doing the blogs and everybody having lots of people telling them they love the models, you should really produce them and cast them and get them sold. And when he did that, nobody wanted to buy them, me included, because well, I bought them now. Those models we asked him to buy, but it was just something that I knew that I wanted them, but couldn't really find a place for them. And the game really made that place. You know, he made a game that fitted them in, instead of having the models to be fitted into other armies. The trolls in question was the ones that I really wanted, but didn't really get around to buying when he did cast them up. And that was because I didn't have an army I wanted to use them for, and I've always been that. I don't see why I should buy stuff just because it looks cool if I don't have a place to have a use for them. So it's sort of like been my criteria for buying models. Do I want it? Yes. Do I need it? Maybe. Do I have a place to use it? No. Then I would leave it be. And that was the thing with the trolls back in the day. Now that the game's sorted, and I have a troll warband, and that's something that's quite unique with ArcWorlde as well. Normally, in war games, miniature games, you select a race or your faction or whatever they call them, army, and you have to buy certain amounts of this and that in order to get them on. Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Dagfinn, can you hear me?
Yeah, just barely. It might be my headphone volume. I'll turn it up a bit. Right, that's a lot better.
Better?
Yeah, I think so. You can try to tweak it just slightly.
Oh yeah, who are you chatting to at the moment?
Me, myself, and I, and all our viewers, which is none.
So who have we got today?
I don't think we have anybody, actually.
Oh, you should be just chatting to yourself.
Yeah, because this one is sort of like put on my YouTube channel, and will be stored for the ever after. So I figured I could just fill it with some I'm talking about the game. All right. So if you're listening to the game, listen to this hangout in on YouTube, you will probably like to know that the guy just joining us is Mr. Alex Huntley, the creator and mastermind behind ArcWorlde.
How are you?
Welcome.
Uh-huh.
So what are you working on, Alex?
At the moment, I am working on the dollies for the starter warbands for the ArcWorlde second edition factions.
All of them at once.
Well, I've already done the Albionican one, and I've already done the Halfling one. So at the moment, I'm working on the Gremlin and the Wild Elf.
Ooh, so they are both of them are staying with us.
Yes.
That's great news for anybody playing Wild Elves or Gremlins.
Definitely. I mean, fingers crossed. I'm going to have all of the warbands kept in. I mean, it depends on kind of the financial success and also the way where the game is going to be taken. And talking to my rules designer Gobbo, like he had suggested that the warband or traditional ones need a bit of a rejig to make sure that they work in the game better.
Yeah, more like unique gaming style or
Exactly.
exactly.
Which makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, because they are very different. The different fractions you have. I think the most similar ones are the Norsewold Viking themed humans and the Albionicans.
Yeah, which is something we're going to hopefully address in the second edition.
Yeah.
All the models that are available now will still be available to use in the game, and we will release updated kind of second edition ready stats for everything that we have made. But the way that the warbands are structured, at least the more current miniatures, will be probably slightly different than what's available now.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you might be. Well, of course, you are the. You said you had the Gobo guy doing the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm guessing you're more like the visual and.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm the more kind of the creative visual, and also I'm kind of in charge of the fluff and things. Like I do have guest writers who do stuff for me, like Mr. Paul L. Matthews, who is guest written for the most recent release, which is Troubles in the North. But I'm more kind of the design. I design the world rather than the actual way how to play the game.
Everything except the games, really.
Yeah, well, I did quite a lot for the first edition. Like the core rules were made, at least the core bits were made by a gentleman called James Griffiths, and then I worked on a few of the kind of the add-on rules like epic duels and things. That was all me,
Mm.
and a few of the profiles and things like that. Whereas I'm not. I'm more, as you said, I'm more of the creative side. Like I'm not a game design wizard. I don't have that particular skill set, so I'm much happy kind of handing it over to much wiser heads than I.
So I'm guessing the $1,000 question is: do you enjoy playing your own game?
To be honest, I don't really have that much time to play nowadays. I mean, I try and grab some time where I can, but because doing all the sculpting and artwork and design for a miniatures game is a pretty full-time job. I don't usually, and also like I don't have many, at least locally, many gamer friends. A lot of the friends that I've made in the community over the years have been stationed all over the world. So it would be quite difficult for me to kind of meet up with people on a regular basis to play.
But as far as I know, you live in what is at least in my head the wargaming mecca, Nottingham,
Oh yes. Very
and
lucky to, and of course the reason why I moved to Nottingham when I was 19 had nothing to do with the fact that it is the War Games Mecca, of course. That had no impact on my decision at all.
No,
But
wasn't
no,
it?
it is good. It is good. But the funny thing is like I've discovered that the actual gaming community isn't as big here. I think
Oh,
in the UK at least, there are bigger kind of wargaming has a bigger presence in other cities. Like Manchester, for example, I believe has quite a strong gaming community. But seeing as Nottingham as you say, the mecca of wargaming. I mean, I could be wrong. Yeah, I could be completely wrong. But to my knowledge, there isn't as many kind of war games clubs and things, at least local to the city centre.
it might be because you're playing ArcWorlde and not 40k.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm guessing that's a bit more dominant in the UK. Well,
I
in Nottingham maybe.
think it's more dominant everywhere else. I mean, there are other games that are kind of up and coming as well, to my knowledge. Like Kings of War is very
Yeah,
popular. That seems to have filled the ecological niche that Warhammer Fantasy Battles used to have.
yeah.
Guild Ball is very popular.
Guild Ball. Yeah, I've been looking into that myself.
Yeah, and that's made by a company called Steamforged Games that are based in Manchester, or Stockport in particular, and they're building up a really cool community. I'm not sure. There's some more of kind of the big. And Malifaux, of course, that's a quite a popular game. But as I said, I'm more of a hobbyist. So in my downtime, I usually paint or draw or especially sculpt. So that's kind of how I spend my free time. Funnily enough, like I what I do for work, or should I say what I do for pleasure, is what I do for work. So
Hmm. Yep. But that could sort of like be the death of either one of them, couldn't it?
I mean, usually what I do is I just choose a model that I really want to make, because obviously there are things that I have to make that I'm not too. Well, obviously, I love my job and I like sculpting everything, but some things are more of a chore than others, especially when it comes to finishing off models, because obviously starting a new figure and working on something fresh and interesting is always going to be more fun than working on the model that you've had sitting on your desk for months and months, and you have to finish at some point. But so it was a big relief for me to finish all the Troubles in the North models, seeing as I had them on my desk in
It was a
very
big relief for us as well.
yeah. It's really cool to hear that people have been getting their parcels and stuff. So yeah, I'm very happy about that. It's good to see. Brings joy to my heart to see people happy with their figures.
Yeah, exactly, because you have sort of like given birth to it all.
Oh, definitely. It's like it felt like releasing. I mean, you're a father yourself, so you should know that kind of feeling of letting your children into the world, like sending them
Hmm.
to school and stuff like that. That's kind of it's quite emotional sending everything off, especially because the last push getting everything out was we had to pack almost 300 parcels
Oh,
with
wow.
300 parcels and a combination of about 50 different products and things. So it took a long time and it was very kind of labor intensive. And there's only two of us as well. There's only my mum and I packing
Wow.
everything. We had some help from my grandma and my grandma's friend who very kindly helped bag up all the models because when we get them from the metal caster, they're not all nicely bagged with bases and things. You have to do all that by hand. So
Mm.
helping out with that really, you know, helped with everything. But yeah, it's a pretty intense period. So when it all got done finally, it was definitely a relief.
Yeah, sounds great. By the way, Alex, do you have a webcam? Or are you choosing to be
I'm
be
shooting be anonymous because I thought, well, I've just got back from being in town having a drink with a few friends, and I thought, well, I've got back. I need to kind of tidy my room and things. So
Yeah, we saw that video on the weekend, and I noticed that your drawer got a bit of attention.
yeah, I don't know why, but it's it's a bit rickety because I'm in rented accommodation because there's not that much money in miniatures, so I have to kind of make do and mend. So it's not exactly the
Yeah,
way.
because you do miniatures for a full-time job,
Yes, it's
more or less.
models for a full-time job, which I live the lifestyle that I want to lead, which is incredible because I wouldn't be able to do it without the people who buy ArcWorlde. So I'm eternally grateful. But it's quite interesting when I've got very close friends of mine who are doctors or policemen,
Oh.
engineers, and things, and I'm saying, "Oh, I make toys," but I wouldn't change it for the world because I get to do what I love every day. Like, there's never a moment where I wake up in the morning and think, "Oh God, I've got to go to work and oh, I've got to deal with this person," because the fact of the matter is not only do I get to sculpt models every day for a job, which in itself is a really fun thing to do, but the people who I deal with doing my job are all wonderful. I mean, I think
Wow.
in particular, I've been very lucky to have the support from the ArcWorlde fans as I have, because they're all generally wonderful people and all very understanding as well. Because especially on like the Kickstarter pages, I've seen a number of people who are a bit impatient and a bit kind of not really understanding the process and get a bit
So
angsty
like
when.
Kickstarter in general or your Kickstarters?
No, Kickstart miniatures Kickstarters in general. I'm saying that the people who back my Kickstarters and who buy my products are all extremely understanding of
Mm.
that. We are only a very small company, and there's only one person sculpting everything. There's only one person doing all the resin casting. There's only one person, So the fact that people are like, oh yeah, it might take a bit longer than I said, and people are usually very like understanding, and it means a lot to us. It kind of feels good to know that we haven't got these crowds of hyenas baying at our doors whenever,
Exactly.
yeah, like people. I mean, obviously there's that kind of pressure from myself to make sure that everything gets done well and in good time, but it is nice to kind of know that if things don't go as well as planned, the community will be completely understanding of
Yeah, and knowing you from following you from few years, you are your own biggest critic.
oh God, yeah.
So
It's funny because
stuff that us Arc fans wouldn't even really consider an issue. You
oh
lose
yeah,
night sleep over.
yeah.
Mm.
But I think it's the same as any artist, really. Everyone is the most critical of their own work, and because you've made it, you see all the flaws, and you don't
Yeah.
kind of it's not as easy to take a step back and just think, oh yeah, I made this, and people really love it and stuff. Because I'm a massive critic of my own work, especially my older work, and I'm very keen to remove things from the web store and stuff like that. And
But is it because of the sculpt itself, or is it the idea? It's like is it a sort of like a model you regret
oh, it's not.
inventing?
No, it's not the idea. Like there isn't a particular concept what I don't like. It's more the execution.
Yeah.
Because as I get older and as I practice, generally every model that I make is a better quality than the last. So I'll look back at something I did a year ago or 2 years ago and think, oh God, if I did that now, it'd be so much better and stuff. But I've spoken to a few artists over the years and a few miniature sculptors, and they're all the same. They all say, it's all part and parcel, but try not to hate your work because it's a milestone of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, but you couldn't have been where you are now if it weren't
Yeah.
for the stuff that you made earlier.
Yeah, I think the biggest kind of irritant for me is the fact that people are buying models that I made years ago, and they'll get them and think, oh, this is as good as this guy can do.
Mm.
Like, no, if you bought like the newer stuff, it's much better. And it is funny that my old stuff. I mean, the older something is, generally the better it will sell.
And I've heard you rant about that before.
Oh, you've heard me rant about that.
I've heard about it. Yeah, we had a few chats previously, and I'm very keen on the early work you've done. Not because I see what you know, what you're getting at with the quality of the sculpt, and it's a bit like chewing gum stuck all over.
Yeah.
But as you've gotten better, you got more streamlined, more smooth. And I think that something that really caught my eye with the early models with a bit of the lumpiness and
Chewing gum.
the yeah, so like it looks cartoony, almost comical.
Mm.
And I think you pulled that up with the new halfling set you've done.
Mm.
The because I only collect halflings for those who are watching. Um, but yeah, I think you pulled it off with we're still having that exaggerated expressions on them and huge shirts hang out over the belts and everything's just but everything is exaggerated so that they still have that warp lock look to them,
Mm.
but it's all better proportioned, sort of.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things that I've really tried to say to myself is, especially the stuff that I did for the first Kickstarter, a lot of it was very rushed because I wanted to get the stuff out as quickly as possible, and because I, excuse me, initially I'd only given myself 6 months to get the whole Kickstarter done, and
Oh, blimey.
that was when I was only asking for 5 grand for the first Kickstarter in 2013. So when it hit, I had to make all these stretch goals and things like that. The amount I think I had to sculpt over 100 models. So I was like just trying to rush, get them all finished. And a lot. I look back on them, and the concepts are sound. Like I like the ideas behind them, but just I feel that the execution wasn't quite there. And to be honest, a lot of that is the reason why I'm making the choice to resculpt a lot of the miniatures for ArcWorlde Second Edition.
Mm.
Some of the models might be called different things, and the profiles might be slightly different, but a lot of the concepts are going to be the same. So there will be no reason to not use all of your old figures to play the second edition, because I know that was when I announced that I was doing it or working on it. A lot of people were quite worried that, like, oh, I've only just found ArcWorlde and I've spent all this time painting up my models, and you're telling me that it's all going to be made obsolete.
Exactly, and it's sort of like you know that it's going to be a scourge of some sort, and you fear that the models that you fall in love with will be the one being sort of like butchered.
Yeah, but as I said on the group chat when I was talking, it's the nature of the beast. As the game develops, I am going to have to retire certain concepts to make way for new things, because it can't just grow indefinitely. To make sure that the game is tight, we have to have a limited number of
Troops, yeah, and options.
troops, limited number of options. I mean, the models are all going to be still available. In fact, a lot of the models that are out were made for the first Kickstarter and for the first edition of ArcWorlde are going to be kind of rebranded as the ArcWorlde Classics.
Mm.
So they're all,
Collectibles.
because I know a lot of the people who buy ArcWorlde figures aren't really in it necessarily for the game. They just like to collect the models. So those miniatures are still going to be available, but the actual updated rules and things like that, and the models that are released for second edition are going to be, a certain way.
Yeah, sounds interesting. I'm very much looking forward to it, as I do with all your work,
I'm
obviously.
looking forward to it. It's nice because, as I said, all these years I'm like, oh God, I wish I could have done that better. Wish I could have sculpted that better. Now I can. I am doing it.
Just a comment on that. I think the Halfling Spearman, the Spear miniature came in. I think I had 3 different editions of them.
Mm.
And then, of course, when you've made the Heroes of the Hobbleshire, which you said would be sort of like a sneak peek into second edition.
Yeah.
So that's actually 4 editions of Spearman.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to see the progress in sculpting quality.
Well, you're kind of a self-proclaimed historian of ArcWorlde Half.
Yeah.
And you're still painting ones up that you bought 6 years ago.
Yeah, I said that when I started this video, that I'm so like when I set my mind to doing something, I would love to take some of the Troubles in the North models and bring them out and start painting them up. But I started the Thing Flinger crew because I want to complete all the options for the that I can do in the with the warband, and I wanted to make them done first, and therefore I have to complete the Thing Flinger as well.
Mm.
But after that, I might treat myself for with a new model. I think.
Yeah, the halflings always seem to be the best sellers. I think because of what I've been told, anyway, is that not that many companies out there do halflings. So I
Yeah,
think
I think that's true.
that I do them, they're kind of like, oh. So it's quite funny. I kind of joke to myself that I spend all this time making all these different war bands, all these different characters, whereas I'd probably make a damn sight more money if I just made halflings and nothing else.
Yeah, but if as long as you make different sort of like poses and make them a bit of variety to them, you can always add up to the range without really having to do a lot of different rules and expanding the universe too much.
Well, that's the thing. That's the plan. Because one of the things that I want to introduce into ArcWorld 2 or ArcWorld Second Edition definitely is the concept of PDF rules. Because if I was to do a rule book with all the stat profiles printed in it, like the first edition rule book was,
Mm.
I'm essentially restricted on what models I can release.
Yeah.
Because all the rules are in there, and people assume that all the rules in there are all the rules for the game. And once they're printed and people start playing with them, obviously that's when rules discrepancies start popping up, and by that point, it's too late. The book has been printed. So the plan for the second edition is that the core rule book will essentially be the core rules, the rules of how to play the game, but all the actual stat cards will be downloadable from the website.
I do get a bit of an ugly flashback from my wargaming history when we played. I can't remember what game it was, but I was playing this opponent, and he suddenly pulls out this a retro rule book printout of some sort, and he said, "Right, no, you can't do that because of this." And I think that's sort of like the downside of having it very dynamical and living, is that people have to constantly be aware what's out there in order to play it. At least if it's sort of like on an open gaming tournament. This was a tournament type of game, so it wasn't. It wasn't like ArcWorlde at all.
ArcWorlde's never going to be a tournament game. It's not the right kind of build for it. But I mean, I've always said that ArcWorlde is a more casual game. However, it might be a casual game. That doesn't mean it should be broken. and
No, exactly. Yeah.
And I would like to be able to, make sure that the game is as good as it possibly can be for the players. And part of that is extensive play testing and feedback from the fans. But the problem is that often, there have been times where I have put the hue and cry out for play testers and such. And there have been some wonderful people, especially got involved during Troubles in the North, to make sure that those rules are particularly play tested. But it is a massive undergoing, and most companies that do have extensive play testing are big companies who can afford to pay people just sit in a room and play constant games for weeks on end, which is kind of, I can't really afford to have that luxury. So
Oh, that's too bad because I was about to volunteer.
So I think it's much better to have a kind of a dynamic game that does. I mean, the actual core game itself won't change. I'm very keen to, once that rule book is printed, it's printed. I'm not going to have to do erratas and things like that. But particularly for the stats, for the models, I would like to be able to, over a period of months, if I'm getting, this model is a bit overpowered and this model would work better if it had these rules and stuff like that. Kind of keeps the game fresh. And yeah, it means that people still have to kind of keep checking back, but I'll make people aware if model stats change, and it keeps you kind of engaged with the game. Because that's the thing, like change is an interesting thing. There's always going to be changes, and no matter what kind of creative endeavor you get into, nothing's set in stone. Especially when it comes to people actively working with those particular things all the time. It's not like a novel where you sit back and read it and that's it. It's written and it's changed forever. If you're constantly having people engaging with that and living it essentially, then it's good to kind of make sure that it is like still active and being worked on. It's kind of like when you have video games and they do updates and things and bug fixes and stuff like that. It's the same concept.
Yeah, it's true. So, oh, did you have your speaker on?
Pardon?
I hear myself through your microphone.
Well, my microphone is my webcam kind of just put on the desk, quite far in front of me.
All right. I just got an echo. Sorry, where were we? You were talking about Eretras and
yeah, just making sure that the game is fixed and up to scratch, rather than it being broken and buggy and difficult to play.
And constantly being refreshed, sort of.
Yeah.
I think that's. I think it could work with ArcWorlde because it's let's just say it is a fun game rather than a competitive game.
Yeah.
And people will be like, all right, if one play, I want to try out this, or like just set up this and that, and we'll talk through it. Because I think people play ArcWorlde to have fun rather than sort of best themselves with it.
Yeah, as I said, it's not a tournament game. Like, it's not the kind of game that you want to mercilessly beat your opponents with. It's the kind of game that you just want to kind of sit and chill out and have a few beers and just chat about how
it really does lend itself to beer drinking.
Definitely.
So
what's one of the bonuses of war games and board games in particular, because it does get people together. It's not like especially nowadays with the more common occurrence of online playing of video games and stuff like that. I mean, yes, you're still engaging with people, but the vast majority of the people you're engaging with are strangers. You don't know them. They're just your teammates for a 5-minute match, and then you'll never speak to them again.
Exactly.
Whereas with board games and the miniatures games, it forces you to get together with people. I think
I did ramble a bit about that before you came along. How I really enjoy board games from a young age, and when I found wargaming, it was sold instantly, as it was sort of like it combined my love for fantasy, the fantasy genre, and it was a social game. So like you have to be next to each other to play it, and it's fun and light, and yeah, it's so much about it that really it ticks a lot of my boxes.
That's good, because it
Yeah.
was in, the concept for the game and the way that it played was, through my experiences of wargaming in general. And one of the things I really did enjoy was the more kind of casual aspect of war games. And I didn't like, the people who took it really seriously and were very overly competitive and stuff like that. And that actively, made me dislike playing. So when I made my own, I wanted to make definitely sure that people who were playing it knew exactly that it was meant to be a fun game. It wasn't meant to be taken super seriously. I mean, yes, I want it to be fair, and I want to make sure that the models all check out, which is why I'm doing the live rule book for second edition. But that doesn't mean that it has to be broken and stuff. And I don't want people power gaming, I think the correct term is, because I know there are a lot of games out there where people play to win.
At all costs, and those are also the ones that find that combination of units and skills and benefits and whatnot that really work well together in order to get great combinations.
Yeah, I
Sort of
believe.
make the other units better just by being combined in the right way.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if this term is used anymore, because it's been a long while since I've been part of the gaming kind of actual kind of active gaming community. It's cheese lists,
Yeah, cheese feast.
cheese feasts, which there's been many a time when I was playing Warhammer Fantasy Battles where I was up against a Skaven army that had like
A lot of cheese.
a hell of a lot of cheese.
Mm.
And some people get a lot of gratification out of doing those kind of lists and tweaking and figuring out how to break the rules. And that's fair enough. If that's what you're into, then that's what you're into. But I don't think it should be the expectation.
As I said before, you came on as well. So I was into Warhammer and I was into tournament play as well, and I felt that I was doing quite okay. And we had a gaming club that were tournament oriented.
Mm.
So we used a lot of time prior to big tournaments to find right how many points we're playing, what are the restrictions, because tournament organizers very early found out that they needed to add um, that limitation that Games Workshop did not include in their rules. So you could bring cheese feast lists, but the organizers sort of made those restrictions,
Yeah.
and we did spend a lot of time fine tuning our lists in order to work as good as possible.
Mm.
And it was a lot more satisfying to play with when you knew how the army was, how it was supposed to work.
Mm.
Not that you necessarily broken it, because you've tried just maximized it within the rules. Cheese feasts happened, I think, when there were no real restrictions. So
Mm.
you're allowed to, in my case, I played Wood Elves, you were allowed to have 2 3 men and the healing potions, in theory giving you three men.
Yeah.
And that was sort of something most people couldn't cope with.
Mm.
So
Well, I just think as I said, there are some people who just enjoy being able to like almost break the game. You
Yeah,
know, it's the same kind of mentality of people who like to find the glitches in video games and things like that. You know, there is a kind of a joy in beating the system. But
yeah. That doesn't limit itself to wargaming, by the way, or gaming at all. There are those people in general who find they can beat the system.
mm.
But let's not go into politics. So yeah, I was actually wanting to ask you something about this thing flinger thing because
Okay,
when I was rambling last week when I had the hangout, then I couldn't really figure out how it was working.
right.
So how does the thing flinger work? So like how the mechanical aspect to it. I don't know if your engineering skills were.
Oh, I can't even really remember it. Look, I sculpted it almost 5 years ago, so I'm not really quite sure.
All right, if I'll hold it up to the camera and then talk a bit about it. From what I can see, there's a huge coil or spring or something down here at the bottom
Mhm.
behind the front base, and there's a strap of some sort going behind the lever for the catapult arm. So in my head, it's sort of like you wind up the spring,
Yeah,
and then that stretches the cords, and when that's then when you release it, the cords goes swing and the thing flies.
yeah, yeah. Okay, that works for me.
All right, so we'd just like to welcome Andrew Foxton. Welcome, welcome. I see your microphone has been muted, but you are very much welcome to hang along.
Hi guys, sorry,
Hello.
I just had to mute myself because I've got my logo on. So do you want to disturb you guys talking?
It's okay.
I'm just going to mute myself again.
All right.
How's it going, man?
I
It's
think
all
it's just.
good.
Yeah.
Do you need a bit of time, Andrew, before you join us for real?
Well, I'm just going to be like on and off a bit with the actual muting, just because I'm going to be doing a bit of. Oh, that's not sticking. Okay, I'll have to sort that out in a second.
All right.
Yeah.
Later then.
So I'm still on. I'm just going to mute myself. 2 seconds.
All right. So yeah, it's nice with a bit of company. I was going on last week. I was going on for like 1.5 hour rambling. Good thing I was working in a local radio back in my younger years.
Mm.
So speaking on my own about nothing really was something I was getting good at.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, how are you able to speak that long without getting any kind of feedback or response to kind of work off?
Well, I have what do you call it? A huge variety, a rich source material to ramble over,
Mm.
and it went all real basic about the ArcWorlde history and my hobby and how I enjoy it. So yeah, the video's out there on YouTube.
Mm.
You're able to watch it there.
Get it in the pool.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of videos, I mentioned before that you were on the Weekender,
Mm.
and that was a great interview.
Very much.
I think what really I liked about it is that it was you really show the enthusiastic side of you for it. Once you sort of like once somebody's putting money on you, start talking, you didn't shut up.
Yeah.
So you took half of the show almost.
Yeah, I did kind of. I mean, when I was talking to the guys, because it was pre-recorded, obviously, and I said to the guys like, "Oh, I apologise. I feel like I've properly rambled on. And they go, oh no, it's fine. We'll make sure to cut out bits that we feel will go on too long and stuff like that. And they kept almost all of it in, so I mustn't have been chatting that much rubbish.
No, I don't think so. Because it's the thing you talked about the early days of the game, and I think that's at least for me, I might be getting nostalgic, but the first Kickstarter, it was an adventure. It really was. I can't imagine how it was for you at Warplock HQ.
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, this was before my parents were really involved, so they only really got involved because of the success of the first Kickstarter. You know, up until that point, it was just a kind of a hobby of mine that they kind of
Indulge you with, all right.
indulged me. Yeah. And I think the Kickstarter was the first time they were kind of like, oh shit, this is actually a thing. And now they're incredibly involved, so it's funny how tables turn.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I remember checking the Kickstarter site, so like more often than Facebook back in those days. Checking all the comments and looking for updates and see if we're reaching stretch goals and all right, we're broken it. When will we see the next thing you managed to wing out of your imagination? Because I think that's the most fun thing about it. We knew that you sort of like used all your ammunition, all your ideas were spent within week one, wasn't it?
Oh yeah. But funnily enough, that same concept didn't work as well for the Troubles in the North. In fact, I had a lot of people complaining that they didn't know what was coming up and that they couldn't see everything that was available, which was kind of, I suppose, a shame, because I tried to, you know, recapture the same magic that the first Kickstarter had, but the topography of the hobby has changed, especially on Kickstarter.
Mm-hmm.
Because when the first Kickstarter came around, it was particularly new. Not that many people had done miniatures Kickstarters, so I think I kind of caught the wave.
First wave, yeah, exactly.
Whereas in the 3 years that preceded that Kickstarter, every man and his dog did one, and the quality and what people expected kind of increased exponentially from that point. Because, you know, we've had the likes of Kickstarters from the big fish in the pond, and they have the funds and the ability to kind of put all the sculpts up there. All of the miniatures are painted, and you know, and it's just kind of increased people's expectations of what a Kickstarter should look like. So, and I did try putting up, you know, concepts or people, or you know, say, you know, question marks saying, "Oh, we don't know what's going to come next." People actually complained about it. They're like, "No, why should I back this Kickstarter if I don't know what's going to be on there?" And I think the old crowd, the guys who had been with me from 2013 or earlier, as you with yourself, they enjoyed it, but well, especially when attracting new people, they was like, no, well, it's obviously not ready, it's not finished. How am I meant to back this project when I don't know half the stuff that's going to be on there? And so it was a bit of a disappointment for me. I mean, overall, I'm happy with how the project developed, and I'm happy with the models and everything like that. But it was definitely a learning curve for me of how I knew that I wasn't able to, you know, do things in the same way that I had been doing them previously. So it's definitely affected my opinion on how to do things from here on out. So I'm thinking,
yeah, and you're probably planning a lot already about the second edition.
exactly. In fact,
How should we launch it? Should we?
Yeah, well, the first
make rules and just.
Yeah, I mean, my organic releases never ever do as well as a Kickstarter, and I don't think that's particularly, you know, rare. I think all miniatures companies expected that, you know, things that are released into the world without Kickstarter are often usually ignored because people think, oh, it's fine, I can grab that whenever, it's cool. Whereas with the I think the kind of the limited time of it makes people just go, right, yeah, I've got to buy that now. Boom. So it really gets people the money where their mouth is, which obviously is a very good thing, but it does kind of get you in a bit of a rut because a lot of companies now, their entire business model essentially relies on Kickstarters because it's the only way to actually market things to people and get them to spend straight away. So, I mean, ideally, I don't want to do another Kickstarter for Arc, the second edition release, but with the way that the industry is going, especially
you might have to
have the funds to, you know, pay people to market for me and do, you know, travel around the country and you know, advertise it the old-fashioned way. I think I am going to have to cave in and do it on Kickstarter. However, one thing that I've been considering trying to do is actually do an extremely short Kickstarter. So I think
so like advertised in beforehand, so everybody knows it will be coming. But
in fact, I've actually been thinking of doing a 3-day Kickstarter.
Oh wow!
So maybe even a 4-day. So start it on a Thursday and then finish it on a Sunday. Because I think a lot of the problems with long Kickstarters is that the momentum is lost. Because if you look at any Kickstarter kind of a graph of the amount of backers or amount of pledges and things like that, it's intense at the beginning, then it peters out and there's like a desert in the middle where nothing happens. And then there's a spike at the end when everyone tops up their pledges, which is kind of frustrating for a lot of people because obviously the more that a Kickstarter grows, the more stretch goals are unlocked and things like that. However, those stretch goals aren't broken if people don't put money in. Now that kind of means that it's a kind of what's the word I'm looking for? You know, it's a catch-22 situation, a catch-22 situation where you want to bring more people in, but they're waiting until everything's out so they know what to put in. Like a lot of people won't actually update their total on the Kickstarter until the end, which is why you get that big spike. They want to wait until they've seen everything that's available and then put all the money in. So one of the ideas that I've had for my rapid ArcWorlde second edition Kickstarter, if I do it, by the way, is to just go, right, here's everything that I'm going to be releasing. There's going to be no stretch goals. And you can see everything up front. And the Kickstarter is going to last 3 days. There we go. Because it's not the same anymore. There isn't that sense of adventure. People don't like to watch things grow and develop naturally. They want everything now. They want to see everything, and they don't want to, you know, kind of grow with the project. So I think I'm just going to have to change with the times, which is, you know, it is sad.
Yeah, exactly. At least for us who were along for that incredible event show, going from breaking the stretch and breaking the asking price within a few days. No, sorry, a few hours.
Asking price. Although Troubles in the North.
No, the original Kickstarter.
Troubles in the North broke the what's the word I'm looking for? The target goal.
Yeah.
The first one did. So I think the first one broke it in about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Battle for Troll Bridge did it in about the same time. And I think Troubles in the North did it in about half an hour, which was interesting.
But then in that respect, Troubles in the North was a smaller set. So at least for my part, I committed a lot less money in the Tribes in the North because they were all basically just 5 models that I knew that I had to get.
Well, yeah, because you only ever buy halflings.
Yeah, and I rambled about that last week because I only want to buy stuff that I know I'm going to use. And, well, I use halflings and monsters.
Mm.
So that's sort of like my next expansion. My branching out will be monsters in the future.
Right.
Thinking of getting myself a dragon. Or 2, actually.
I do. I think the plan for the 2nd edition Kickstarter, if I do it, is I'm going to have 4 or starting models for 4 factions, and then maybe a few monsters, and just put them all up, and then it's like a starting block. Because the problem is when I release almost everything in one go, like I did with the first Kickstarter, with Battlefield Trollbridge, with Trolls in the North, people who are going to buy all this will just buy it all in one go. So when I do release it for retail, everyone's got everything that they want already. And I know that a lot of other companies that rely on Kickstarter heavily suffer with that problem. I'm not going to name any names, but they'll release a product. It'll get hundreds of thousands of pounds and thousands of people backing it. But as soon as that's been sent out and it hits the web stores and retail, it flops because everyone who was going to buy it has already bought it. So I'd much rather use, if I do a 2nd edition Kickstarter, I'd use it as a stepping stone, just to kind of give people a taste of what's to come. Just raise enough. I mean, I essentially need it to just afford to get the rule book printed.
Yeah.
I mean, I was thinking of doing 2 separate postages. So I'd have postage that get the miniatures sent out, and then because one of the problems about doing a rule book first is that you're already. Oh, hang on, just got to.
Right. Andrew, can you show us what you're working on, please?
I'm just starting one of the. Oh gosh, I'll do it that way so you probably can see it better. It's the War Chief for the Wild Elves.
Nice.
I primed it black, and then I've just been going over with a bit of Zethal zoning, and then just going to start adding a bit of blue to the skin, and then go from there.
So you're going for the sort of like the avatar.
The original, yeah. I must say, I do like the original look of the Wild Elves. I think that's sort of what attracted me, actually, to the game as well, because of the look of them, the style. Not actually seen any type of blue elves before, obviously apart from Avatar, but in the miniature as well, they just look amazing. So
thank you. Well, it's kind of been a double-edged sword because a lot of the concepts that I use in ArcWorlde are my own twist on traditional kind of concepts like elves and orcs and dwarves and a lot of people, at least initially, really didn't like the elves because they were like, oh, they don't look like Tolkien elves, and everyone was expecting them to be like Legolas, whereas with a lot of people who bought them, because lore, these elves are meant to be these gigantic alien creatures. They're all over 7 feet tall and very bad and evil.
Yeah,
Avatar.
Yeah,
I actually think Avatar is a perfect description of what they are like.
Yeah, definitely. So a lot of people didn't like them. Said, well, they're not elves. So there was actually for a while I was thinking of renaming them as the Fae. So rather than calling them elves and having people get confused and stuff, they'd be, oh, they are the Fae, and they are more inspired by, traditional folklore and stuff like that, rather than just copying Tolkien. But I think I'm kind of too far in now. I've been calling them Wild Elves for 5 years, so to just kind of change the name of the faction might be a bit bit too much of a change for people to adapt to, especially in second. Because like my goal for second edition is to kind of keep things the same but just tweak them. And I think that might be too much of a jump, especially if people have got extensive collections and stuff already. Because I am worried about upsetting people who are existing fans by redesigning things and stuff. Like for one of the examples, I'm changing the way that the Albionicans look, because ArcWorlde second edition is based a few years after the first edition. It's after the events of Tribbles in the North, so there are fluff changes. The timeline has progressed, and the Albionicans, because they did so well in the Tribbles in the North campaign, they'll have access to more Arcanite, which has allowed them to develop more technologies and things like that. So they are going to be a bit more high tech. And the Halfling Civil War that was happening in Heroes of Hobbleshire, that's something else which is going to affect second edition. And the Halflings, their kind of attitude, fluff-wise, is going to be very different. And there's going to be some Halflings, the loyalists who stayed true to the Albionican Empire. They're going to be usable figures in the Albionican list, whereas the other ones are going to be, the kind of the way that the Halfling fluff is going to work out, or kind of the Sons of Hobbleshire, so very kind of isolationist and stuff. And as I said, like, one of the things for me is there's a story, how the story of the world grows and changes over time. So I hope that some of the new concepts and miniatures and characters that I introduce aren't going to be too alienating for existing players.
I think the crossover idea is brilliant. It's a bit it's a bit scary because you're opening up people to use people who don't really know what models are, not what they are. If you're buying a Halfling, you don't buy a Halfling, you buy an Albionican. But it allows players to get more models and make two armies without having two armies.
Yeah, well, one of the concepts that I really want to introduce in second edition for the Albionica faction is the fact that it is an empire. It is constructed of many different people, many different races and things like that, whereas all the characters in the first edition warband are all human. So I do want to introduce new, like auxiliary units, Halfling units, Bayhawk units from the countries and the peoples who they have subjugated. And I think that will allow me to release lots of different models for the same rule sets. So you can have, say, I don't know, a halberdier, for example. I could do a set of human Albionican halberdiers. I could do a set of Halfling Albionican halberdiers. I could even do like a set of Bayok Albionican halberdiers, or maybe a few other kind of countries, because there are so many different countries in the world of ArcWorlde that I haven't even covered yet. And obviously I can't make a playable faction for every single one, so I'd much rather kind of hint at the extended world by, either add-on models for existing warbands or sorts for higher characters and stuff like that, just to kind of give people more of an idea that there is such a big world out there that I'm really keen to explore and develop as a kind of a creator.
That sounds very interesting.
It does. It's nice to hear what you're going to do with it as well.
I'm just really excited.
Yeah.
Like I am really excited, like, to kind of progress the world and expand it, because I'd love to have the time to write novels and things set in ArcWorlde and kind of build up the characters and stuff like that, but I just don't have the time. Because the thing is, with a book, like if I was to write an ArcWorlde novel, for example, chances are only about 20 people would probably buy it. And when it comes to, I don't really have the novelty of not financially benefiting from my art, because if what I do is a job, it's how I pay my bills, it's how I pay my rent. So I can't spend the huge amount of time on something and not hope to gain any kind of financial thing from it. It's not like I'm doing it as a hobby. It's not like I'm doing a day job 9 to 5 which pays for everything, and then I can just kind of use my free time as I wish. Everything that I do, I have to try and think, oh, how am I going to make this? Should I make this model? Should I design this character? Is it going to work? Is it going to, get a good response from the community? I mean, it was one of those.
Yeah.
It was that kind of mentality that gave Gobbo the inspiration to do the ArcStarter thing for Papa Null, the Christmas Bayhawk. Because he said to me, like, oh, Alex, you should definitely do this character. And I said, well, I don't know. It's a lot of, I can't really just sculpt on a whim. I've got to try and think, will this sell and stuff. He goes, oh, well, I'll organize this thing so people can say whether or not they want to buy it or not. And I said, okay, well, if enough people say that they'll put money down and essentially pre-order it, then yeah, I'll sculpt it and get it cast. And people did want it, and I sculpted it, and it's been cast. So that kind of worked out really well.
I think that, we talked a bit about before with the flip side of having a hobby as your full-time job. And I think what you're describing now is definitely a flip side of having your hobby as a full-time job, because you can't really do what you want to do. You have to do what you have to do, sort of.
I mean, as I said to you before, Dagfin, if I had any business sense, I would only sculpt halflings and nothing else, because that's all that people want to buy, just halflings all the time. But I don't want to just. I mean, there's a lot of decisions that I've made over the course of my career that probably don't make business sense, but my artistic integrity comes before all else, which is a double-edged sword, definitely. And it's funny, because Gobbo always says to me, Alex, you're an artist, but you are not a businessman, which kind of rings true a lot of the time. Because like, for example, not wanting to sell models or taking stuff off the web store and stuff like that. I mean, if it was up to me, when I released ArcWorlde 2, I would remove all my old figures from the web store and never sell them again, because I'd think, nope, that's not my current work. I'm not happy with it. I'm not proud of it. I don't want to sell it anymore. I don't want my name attached to those things. But I know that the hue and cry that would erupt if I ever did that would be astronomical, and I would constantly just have people wanting to buy my old figures purely because you couldn't buy them. So
yeah.
As I said to Dagfin, I think what I'm going to do is, once ArcWorlde 2 is released, I'm going to rebrand all the first edition models as ArcWorlde Classics, and have them make people very aware that they are the old editions of the figures, and when certain war bands or certain characters aren't going to be supported in the new edition, especially when it comes to the rule books and stuff like that. But there are collectors out there, and the vast majority of the people who buy models from me don't even play ArcWorlde, just like the models. So I think it should be okay. And it's one of the benefits of ArcWorlde being such a small community, is that it is very easy for me to kind of just say to people, "What guys, what do you think of this?" And it's it's good that I can kind of converse with my customers and things, and discuss ideas with them. It's not like if I make a bad decision, thousands of people are going to be upset and raging, like with some video games and stuff. I have a relatively small customer base, so I can just say, "Oh, what do you think of this, guys?" And 50 people will say yes, or 20 people will say no, and I can just kind of make my decisions based on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. But I really do like the idea of having the sort of rebranding, making them the old ones, but still keeping them live.
Yeah, I mean,
because it is like It's like the old trolls you did, the ones you did that nobody wanted.
Yeah.
When you finally made them, because I was looking at them. I said, all right, I like these. I really do like these, but I don't have a play. I don't know where to use them. I don't know what to use them for. And when I figured that out, I bought them. It's like if you've taken those out of production completely and never to be made again, I would sort of like feel a loss because I didn't have the opportunity to buy it. I didn't have the need to buy them, other than that I like them.
Yeah.
And I know that if I buy things that I like just because I like them, not because I need them, then they end up at the back of the queue, just adding resin to the pile.
Yeah, well, I think the vast majority of ArcWorlde customers are those people who just buy something because they like it rather than because they need it. You know, I reckon about, I would say 60% of the people who backed the first Kickstarter probably still have all the models in their original bags in the drawer somewhere, never to be used or even looked at again. Because I know that a lot of people do have quite formidable lead mountains that they're never going to get through. So, but that's it's the name of the hobby. You know, people are collectors, and even if they don't use them, a lot of people just want them.
So guilty as charged over here.
Pardon?
Guilty as charged over here, I am.
I mean, I know
they're
they're
like, oh, crap that. But playing the game though, I had a couple of games myself with a few of the lads, and obviously we had a little play about with your beta rules. Yeah, we just absolutely fell in love with it. It's just really, really good. I heard you guys talk about the thing flinger. Yeah, that in itself is just brilliant.
I need to complete painting it up, then I can use it in a game because.
Oh, my dad's just commented saying, "Are you not reading any posts?" I don't know what that means.
It probably we have a chat going live on the YouTube site, but I can't seem to watch it because it's not in the Hangout. It might have to. So we probably need to go on YouTube and watch it from there. Just to I'll look into it, Rob.
Yeah.
So I'll just mute my microphone so you don't see my intense glare at the screen as I try to figure out. All right.
So, what you on at the moment, or is that a pure secret?
Pardon?
What you on at the moment? What you're sculpting at the moment?
I am sculpting the dollies for the Wild Elves and the Gremlins for ArcWorlde Second Edition.
Nice.
And I'm just talking to my daddy saying, watch on YouTube. And I'm like, well, where? I don't know where it is. Yeah, so it's one of the things that I do. It saves a lot of time. So if I've got like a model or a troop type that has a certain uniform or whatever, I'll usually sculpt one and then I can repose it rather than, you know, sculpting each one fresh, because then I've got consistency across the lines. I'll usually sculpt one. Oh, I found it. I can repose it rather than, you know, sculpting each one fresh, because then I've got consistency. There we go. It's kind of weird. Okay, so we have no comments, I think. At least there's not any. Oh no, wait, I found it.
Me too. I had to watch it on YouTube. So yeah, the Fomorian has been watching us apparently for quite some time and been doing a few comments. All right. So let's just scroll back and take a few of his questions. I'll read them out to you, Alex, and you can sort of like give appropriate feedback when need be. He says that's great. Let the doctors be doctors and keep model modeling great miniatures, Alex. So that's basically to so like on the subject of.
I was actually having a coffee with those exact doctors this afternoon, so that's quite funny.
And then will ArcWorlde Second Edition have character cards instead of the rules within the rule book?
Character card. Well, there'll be downloadable and printable character cards. That's the plan. So traditional character cards, like you would see in other games, aren't possible for ArcWorlde because the size of the rules differs massively from one model to another. It's not like I know Relic Blade, for example. All of their characters have very set stats and no special very things, so they can fit on one playing card. So you can just have a playing card for each model, but when you've got a Boglin or a standard trooper that has a few lines, and then a dragon, which is 2 pages of rules, it's impossible to have them printed out as a standard thing. So the plan is to have for each of the models for second edition, they will have their the product page with a picture of the model. Then there'll be a link in like the text. Click on the link, and it will go to a folder with a PDF of laid out and stuff of the character, and with the artwork and the fluff and things, and the stat card. And then there will be kind of like a printer-friendly stat card.
So yeah, like the one you've done for Trouble in the North, where where just basically just stats and the rules and nothing else, and you'll have the PDF versions be more like the older ones.
Yeah. So the PDF version will be what it would look like if it was printed, and then the printer-friendly one will be the one that you can just run off on a black and white printer, because then it's not as much of a big deal if there are changes every few weeks. You can just print off all the stats that you need in one go, rather than spending loads of money getting full color prints done every time.
Yeah, because where he says further down here, he says that it would be cool to have some sort of characterful art, parceled character cards, maybe drawn by Ian McStuffer, Shutter from Recalibrate.
Relic Blade, yeah. Relic Blade. That was the guy I was talking about.
Yeah.
As I said, the layout of the ArcWorlde game and the ArcWorlde stats just don't lend themselves to that kind of standardized template at all. So it will be nice, but without having to completely rewrite the rules and how they're presented, that's just not possible.
All right, so the next one is about the Kickstarter. So that's how far back we have to go in order to backlog. Would it last the Kickstarter possibly last for about a week, including 2 weekends? Smiley face.
Once again, that's an idea, but I've seen a good number of Kickstarters. I mean, I even saw one Kickstarter that was 24 hours. It was a 24-hour Kickstarter, and I think it made something like 17 grand.
Wow.
People saw it and thought, "Oh shit!" and just went back, not even like thinking about it. It's like, I've got 24 hours, bam, I have to back. Whereas if you give people a week, they've got a bit of time to change their mind on stuff, and they've got a bit of time for other campaigns to sneak in and steal away backers and funds and stuff like that. And obviously I want to reduce that as much as possible. So I am leaning more towards obviously making it very, very clear the months and weeks running up to that. But when it comes to actually the time to put your money where your mouth is, I'm like, right, you've got 3 days, go.
Yeah, and it says that also freebies, exclusive stretch goals attract people also. So yeah, the Kickstarter exclusive model is something that we do, but
yeah, but I've only had earache from people, because obviously if you've got an exclusive miniature that's only going to be a part of that Kickstarter, the people, the range is going to grow and the fans are going to grow over time, and a lot of those fans are going to be upset that they didn't have access to that model through no fault of their own. So I don't think I'm ever going to do exclusives again, because I've got a big pile of metal in my shed of all the first edition Explorers and all the promo models from the first Kickstarter, and I can't do anything with them. I can't sell them because I promised people that I wouldn't. So yeah, I don't want to be lumped with a load of products that I can't do anything with, and a load of models that people can't use or people can't buy. So I mean, but yeah, the stretch goals and stuff are a possibility, but then again, people do like to know exactly what they're buying into up front. So I don't know. I think there's, are more people going to wait around for stuff to be unlocked? And then another point of view that I was thinking to myself is that the less stretch goals I do, the quicker the models can be released. Well, not released, but sent to the backers. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the Troubles campaign, the Battle for Troll Bridge campaign, was that it was very small. It was kept very small. So it was done and delivered within about 3 months. So I'm thinking of just keeping the Kickstarter as a very small kickstart of the range, just having a few models there just to get people going, and then once it's established, that's when I'll start releasing stuff like that, just to kind of give people things to look forward to in the future, rather than sculpting the entire range in one go and then not being able to sell anything after. Because then it also, people have their own lives. They have families, they have other hobbies and other war games, and sometimes they don't have all of that money in one go to just splurge on a single Kickstarter. It might be better for them just to have things released in a steady trickle over a period of time, rather than all plugged in once and then they've made 6 months worth of orders in one go.
That would help yourself as well, that you're not having to be thinking, oh my god, I've got all these and extra models to get produced because of the how the Kickstarter has gone, if you like, isn't it?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I had over 90 miniatures to sculpt for Troubles in the North. Some of them were big, complicated models like the Blood Oak and the Arctic Dragon and things like that. And I would much rather keep it small, be able to spend a bit more time on each of the models, maybe even have all the models sculpted and painted before the Kickstarter's even launched, and then just be like, right, all the models are done, guys. I just need this injection of cash to afford to get the rulebook printed. So yeah, come and get it.
Yeah.
I mean, some people would argue saying, oh, you don't need Kickstarter for that. You can do that as a regular pre-order. But I tried that with Heroes of Hobbleshow. I mean, Heroes of Hobbleshow was a commercial flop. Like, hardly anybody bought them. I thought, oh, they're halflings. It's going to be an easy sell. But if it hasn't got a Kickstarter badge slapped on it, then you've got no hope in hell of even being able to stand out from anybody else.
Yeah, that's mad, that. I know, obviously, like you were saying, some people just don't have the necessary funds and stuff, and it could maybe that people just not have the right funds or something to actually invest in it at that time. For me, I'm one of those. I just I wish I had it at the time, because
you're a family man. You've got other commitments and things like that. So you're only going to have a set amount of hobby funds allocated to you. That you're not spending on bills and new shoes and kids' toys and things like that. And I like all of that. So I mean, obviously it makes things nice for me that I can get a massive injection of cash in one go, and then I've got that to play with and release all the cool models with and stuff like that. But I'm whether or not that's the best thing to do, because when I do release all the models on the web store and stuff, most of the existing fans have already got everything they're ever going to buy.
Yeah.
So there's no. I mean, I'm repeating myself. I've already said all this.
But what's the sort of like after trickle from releases? Like the Troubles in the North had just been released. Did you notice any sort of like do we get many more new players to play with? Have they?
I mean, not to go into too many details and things, but I mean, obviously compared to the Kickstarter, it's nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, organic releases never ever do as well because I don't have the funds to, pay for advertising. I don't have the funds to pay people to make.
No, the idea is more like the guys that are lurking around and start buying. So, like back to the trolls that you nearly didn't get to get sold in the first place. Have they sort of like made up money over time?
Yeah, kind of, I guess. I mean, if you remember the Boglin Bazaar
Yeah.
that I did 2 years ago, I mean, they were very, very popular, which was very kind of gratifying for me. I was thinking, well, I couldn't give these away, a few years ago, and now people are clamoring for my older stuff, even more so than my newer stuff, which was quite interesting. But I suppose it is a slow burner. Like when you do, that's the whole point of a Kickstarter is to allow you to essentially, because that's the thing. So if I look at it the way that if I was a, a miniatures startup guy and I wanted to make a game and I had to pay for an artist, I had to pay for a sculptor, I had to pay for a graphic designer, I had to pay for a guy to build my website, everything like that. Like if I try and work out how much of the Kickstarter would have gone into those things, then I think, well, none of the things have gone into that because I do everything.
Mm.
And the only kind of costs that I have are manufacture costs. And obviously, I make investments. I mean, quite a lot of the funds have gone into paying for my places and gaming shows and stuff like that. I try and put a lot of the money I earn back into the business, but quite a bit of that is like the money I used to keep alive, essentially, because it's what
Paying
I
the
wanted.
artist, paying the sculptor, paying the
Paying the artist, paying the sculptor, paying the web design, paying the graphic artist and things. So yeah, as I said, it is nice to kind of have that big influx of cash because I think to myself, oh, that's good. I have a bit of a nest egg to financially live off for the next few months or whatever. I've put the money aside that I know I'm gonna have to pay for the books and pay for the casting and things like that, and then everything else. I'm like, okay, now this is my fee, essentially.
Yeah.
But then there's my kind of thinking of, do I want to put loads and loads of models on there for the second ArcWorlde Kickstarter, or do I kind of want to keep it small, keep it quick, so I can get it a really quick turnaround and get those models to people as soon as possible?
tricky one. All right, should we have a few more from the chat? There's a comment about the Albionicans, still the Formario, spelling it FOMORAAN, Fomorian. Albion is going to be more steampunk then. Let's see, just get the complete comment up here. Arcpunker.
Well, there are going to be a few changes with the Albionicans. As I said, they are going to be a bit more technologically advanced. I mean, those very, very few people who bought Heroes of Hobbleshire, they will know that the Albionican halflings are armed with Arclock rifles.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
One of the initial one of the initial kind of design kind of laws that I gave myself when I was coming up with ArcWorlde back in the early days was that there's no gunpowder. And so everything had to be kind of revolved around, or at least taken into account the fact that ArcWorlde doesn't have gunpowder, which was kind of difficult when doing the pirates. I had to kind of try and be a bit constructive with that. But I've been watching and reading a lot of Napoleonic stuff. Like, I'm a big fan of the Sharp novels and the Flashman novels and things, and I've been doing a bit of research and stuff. And I do like the concept of rifles and proper muskets and things. But I said to myself I wouldn't have black powder in ArcWorlde, so I came up with the idea of using Arcanite instead. So the ArcLock rifle is a device which uses the explosive power of Arcanite to fire essentially bolts of magic like a projectile would. So I've been chatting with Gobbo, my rules designer, about how that could impact the game and stuff like that and things, and we've got some really cool ideas of rules and how that will work. And also, because it's such high technology, it means that only the Albionicans really would have access to it. So I don't have to, change the entire world to fit in, if I'd use something like gunpowder, which is a relatively simple technology. So I've been thinking of maybe adding other kind of weapons, like, for example, with the Bayorks, of maybe giving them like blunderbusses filled with explosive mushrooms and things, or maybe with the pirates have various different kind of ancient things that they dug up out of the ocean and things. So it's interesting.
How these grenade that maybe travels in the north, gremlins with the fire stuff. Have no idea what's fueling them, because you probably don't have petroleum either.
No, exactly. Well, I don't think they really know what's fueling them either. We're just having
grasping on and throwing him away before.
Well, it's like with the rules for the Thing Flinger. One of the projectiles is barrels of exploding liquor and stuff.
Yeah, it could be liquor. Yeah, of course. Very, very strong drink. Right. This is it's great to have company this time around. As you may know, Andrew, I was sitting here all by my lonesome last week, rambling for 2.5 hours, or what, hour and a half. I did get some painting done, but yeah, I really we did talk a bit about the wild elves, and I think with the because I was also one of those that sorry.
Someone keeps saying.
I think one of the I was also one of those that really didn't get the wild elves as what they really were. I knew they weren't Tolkien elves, but they didn't have sort of like a distinguished backdrop like the Albionicans had with the Napoleonic Age, and the halflings with naturally the halfling and the Bayorks, zombie pirates. They all had very distinct universes set about them. The wild elves didn't.
Yeah.
And I think once you linked them to Avatar, then they suddenly had that. It's like native, savage,
well, my
primitive.
My design brief for them, or the inspiration, was kind of like a mixture of Celtic and Native American styling thing. I use a lot of it's one of the reasons why I love blue, because I wanted that kind of woad style tattoos and things, and like the Celtic swirls and stuff, which is a big part of their design. So yeah, I would say that's probably the closest I would get to like a theme. But as I said, a lot of it is also kind of based on traditional, like, or the Fae in traditional folklore and stuff. They are, evil creatures. They're not, oh, we are the elves and we are majestic and we fight to save the world and stuff. They are barbaric creatures who are out for themselves. And I think, I didn't, as I said, I didn't want them to just be copy and paste Tolkien.
I think it's that.
Nice to have that twist on it.
Yeah, it's a nice twist, but it took a while before that sort of was figured out. And I think part of me figuring it out was playing them. All of a sudden, you have these. They were savage. I think the wild elves would probably. They are insane. These heroes, so like hero models in their own. While the warrior is superior to most other troopers out there.
Yeah. I mean, they are the elite.
Yeah.
Elite faction. They do have very strong. I mean, they're like glass cannons, so they are very powerful, but they're quite delicate when we get into combat. So it favors people who have a kind of more a tactical approach to gaming and stuff like that. I know a lot of people do. Right, hang on, guys. I'm going to be using my Dremel, so talk amongst yourselves for a little bit.
All right.
So tell me a bit about yourself, Andrew. Where are you from, and how long you've been joining us?
So I'm from Drift, so I'm literally 10 minutes away from Wetline. So yeah, I moved up Driffield about 6-7 years ago, and for me, I was just trying to find. I actually stumbled across ArcWorlde Wapple Miniatures. I think the Kickstarter for the actual first one had already been released, and some of the models had already been done. However, at the time, I was looking for a gaming club, if you like, around the area, and couldn't find one. So I've actually made one up. So I'm the, like I say, head honcho of Walls War Gamers down in Drift. And obviously, I run that once a month. Yeah, I love anything that's war gaming. Love the look of the miniatures of all the different factions that there were. It's just, if I had all the money, I think I would have got them all. I'm slowly trying to get there with them.
Yeah, I'm also one of those guys that wish I had those like 12 grand to pay for the super premium pledge on the first Kickstarter. That would have been so cool. Have every model ever first before everybody else. So yeah.
So yeah, obviously, I love painting as well. Actually, that's something I like to try and do. So just always practicing.
Yeah, I think the for me, painting is sort of like the my alone time. My whenever I need to chill out and just be me. And that's why I normally do my painting whenever my wife is working. She works a night shift, so I get to have the house for myself, and I get to just really chill out and do painting.
Yeah, I get mine when the wife's watching Strictly Come Dancing.
Yeah, I don't blame you for wanting to get away from that, Andrew.
All right.
Yeah, but it was kind of amazing when we first got talking to each other, Andy, because I was like, "Oh, you're from Drift? Bloody hell! I didn't even know there was a community there."
It's amazing, really, how many people actually started like coming out of the woodwork and stuff now. And you know, we are slowly building up the numbers. Just the other day, I've gone to my eldest daughter's friend's birthday party and found out the birthday girl's dad was a wargamer, and just like, you know, things like that, you just find out, you're like, oh, we have to come down and, you know, play some games. And
how did it come up in conversation?
He actually approached me, saying, "Oh, I hear you're, you know, I've heard of your name, and I just wanted to, you know, find out a little bit more about it." So it's, like I said, I've been off, you know, all the hobbies and hobby hangouts and stuff like that for quite some time. I've had a very lull point. You know, I've had a bit of a, let's say, a bit of a rough year. And obviously last year was a bit of a rough one as well. So I'm not doing all that well with rough years. I'm hoping for a good year soon. But yeah, it was nice to know that, you know, there's people out there that were like, oh, okay, yeah, just to have a chat about stuff. And you could see how passionate I was about the game and the gaming club, and, you know, that he should get himself down. And I'm hoping that he might come down tomorrow or something like that, because actually I only do it once a month.
So what games do you do, Andrew? Is it just ArcWorlde, or do you have allow the odd sci-fi gamer as well?
Like I say, I'm one of those guys that just loves shinies. So yeah, I all of a sudden I start picking them up, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's nice. But so I'm into that world. Guild Ball, Blood Bowl, 40k. I haven't tried Age of Sigmar yet. I'm still into the original Warhammer. I've got the Infamy models, which, again, it's a sort of like everything's a sort of collecting, and I haven't got around to. But there's like Bushido, Marvel, X-Wing. I'm just looking at the actual, you know, stack of boxes I've got behind me. But the main games that I do play is, you know, obviously ArcWorlde, 40k, Guild Ball. At the club, we have people that play Flames of War. We have Ball Action. We have Hordes of War Machine. So yeah, we've got a vast amount of people playing different games, and what I do like to see is, well, what I would like to see eventually is, say, some of the periodic historical games played. I think that would be interesting to play and also to watch.
You see, that's historical gaming has never been something that's interested me.
Yeah.
Because I think I don't like the lack of creativity. Like,
yeah.
Because for me, like, the main enjoyment for miniatures is I see them as essentially three-dimensional illustrations of characters from fictional worlds.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to making historical stuff, you have to be so, like, exact.
Yeah,
Especially when it comes to, I'm picking one example, like Napoleonics, which I know is one of the big historical kind of genres. You know, you get people who know, you know, it's like, oh, if the buttons aren't exactly right on this particular unit, then it's wrong. And yeah. Whereas with fantasy and sci-fi, I feel like you've got a lot more creative license. You can be a lot more
definitely
kind of spontaneous, not spontaneous, but, you know, imaginative with it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, you can be really imaginative with it. I think the gameplay of it all, and I think just seeing things being recreated, I think that's the thing that I find fascinating about it all. But however, like, you know, I love playing, you know, fantasy and sci-fi games, like I say, because it just gives you that imagination that you can play something and it'll always be different, you know, because it's all a game. It's all how the game plays or the style of play, the system, the mechanics behind it all. It can all, be changed. It'll be all different each time. So, yeah.
Definitely.
All right, so back to fantasy. Our trusted viewer have suggested of new monsters. So he said like a sea demons from the Irish mythology, like fire bogs, and he also suggested Fomorians.
I've actually, like, one of the inspirations for the design of the Wild Elves initially was the Slain comics from 2000 AD. I haven't delved into them too much, but there was one in particular because one of my grandma's friends actually was friends with one of the artists called Clint Langley, I think, and he brought me one of his books, and it was one of the Slain kind of graphic novels, and this kind of really feral Celtic, designs and stuff. I was like, God, that's cool. And the Fomorians are actually in there, so I could definitely, yeah. Also, who is the Fomorian? Like, because that's the thing with this community is everyone's using different names, everyone uses different pictures and stuff. It's quite funny because I always get these people coming up to me at shows and things, and I'm talking to them, and they're going, "Oh yeah, I'm this person, by the way." I was like, "Oh, cool! I didn't know it was you. You look a lot different than Darth Vader, who had it." I mean, some people, like, it's impossible to try and. I mean, if I hadn't have met Gobbo first, because I met Gobbo at a gaming show in Germany. If I hadn't have met him beforehand, I'd have no idea what he looks like, because trying to get pictures of him, it's like trying to bloody uncover the Da Vinci Code. So it's so difficult to try and recognize people when everyone uses different names, different avatars, and things like that. I mean, long gone are the days when you used, from the forums where you used to go to conventions and things with the name of your avatar on your shirt or something, so people actually knew who you were when you were talking to them. That's the thing, when now that everything's on Facebook, you're kind of used to kind of seeing people, and yeah, this is so and so, and this is what they look like, and this is where they live and stuff. It's not as anonymous as
the forum, yeah.
Forums were.
Right. Right. He also says that, Alex, where did you get your inspiration for the Dark Lord? He looks like an overlord, like the one from similar named video game. He says he's Martin Hawk.
Oh yeah.
Martin, welcome, Martin. Welcome.
Good evening, mysterious gentleman. No, but yeah, you're absolutely right. My inspiration for the Dark Lords were from playing Overlord. I love that game. It's so good because it encapsulates my ideal vision of fantasy. Like, it was very Pratchett-esque in its way. Like, it was very humorous and things, and obviously that's the kind of the style that I want for ArcWorlde. And I saw it and I thought, oh, that's cool. I mean, I do love the idea. I mean, the whole concept of the Dark Lords, for guys who haven't read the Troubles in the North rulebook yet, it's a kind of a parody of the main antagonists in all of these cliche fantasy things where there's always a Dark Lord ruling over the land, ready to bring down fire and brimstone upon the puny mortals of the mortal lands. Whereas in ArcWorlde, there's thousands of them. And they're all kind of lumped together in this horrible, like, stretch of continent. And they're all bickering amongst themselves for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And then the events of Troubles in the North is the first time they've kind of gone, right, we've got our chance to actually be Dark Lords and try and take over some land, which is why they're all kind of going up north into Norsfeld and things like that. And that kind of inspiration for the kind of the look and that kind of almost petty maliciousness comes from the Overlords. And like in the game, the Overlord can spawn minions where they can run around and do your bidding and stuff like that. And that was one of the main inspirations for the underlings.
Because Martin says they want to see more kind of imps and greens and blues. So I guess
that's the ecological niche that the underlings take up. You know, they are creatures of magic that are born from the essence of the Dark Lord that kind of run around and do his bidding.
Right. So if you have some a aquatic themed underlord, he would probably have bluish imps.
Exactly. I mean, you know, the colours of the models are what you decide them to be. If you want different coloured underlings, you can paint them in as many different colours as you want. It's up to you. So it's the beauty of fantasy is that you can kind of put your own stamp on things.
And I think that's sort of also something that you've encouraged all the way from back to the first major miniatures. You said what you were looking forward to was to see whatever people made up, what sort of like your idea spawned into others.
Definitely. Because I think some people who just want to, who are so obsessed with accuracy, like, oh no, I want it to be right. I want it to be, you know, like, yeah, I know a lot of guys in the Warhammer community wanted to paint their models exactly like they were in the rule books, because they thought that way was canon. But I'm a big believer in having your artistic integrity and, you know, changing things, because that's how I got started making models. You know, I used to buy Games Workshop models and chop and change and make my own characters and make my own like lore for my characters, and eventually that's how I built up to doing full models. So I wholeheartedly encourage people to do the same thing with my miniatures, because, you know, it's how I got started in life, and it would be awesome if other people did the same.
Yeah, and I think we talked a bit about historical game models should be so precise that people don't really have any. You just basically just copying what everybody else has been doing for years. And I think Games Workshop have done a bit of that with Space Marines. Painting Space Marines is a bit like that. So because of the huge variety of Space Marines and universe they have made them in, so like make them. And people should pick up a model and they should be able to see what chapter they belong to just because of the way you painted it. And the shoulder pads and all that should go to whatever model you're.
Yeah, but you see, I would almost categorize people who collect Space Marines as historical gamers, because, you know, Games Workshop has created such a rich lore and background for the Space Marines. You mean, in theory, there's very little you can do with them. I mean, yes, you can argue that, you know, the galaxy is infinite and you can make your own chapters and stuff like that, but, you know, people rarely do that. They just want to stick to the bog standard ones. I think it's the same with other like games based on existing like fiction, like, for example, Lord of the Rings miniatures and stuff. You know, a lot of people want to stay true to the books or true to the films, so you can't really be too
hard to try and deviate from it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you paint Legolas with dark hair, for example.
Oh, shudders!
That's not what Legolas looks like.
Yeah, exactly. You'll have mayhem in no time.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't field him. Probably come to a tournament. No, that's not Legolas.
Yeah.
You have to take him off the board. But on the other monsters, do you have anything down the pipeline in ideas that you want to do?
Sorry, say that again, Declan.
Monsters. Do you have? You're keen on your dragons and your trolls, but do you have any other? So like the Unithorn is a very unique model, and the Blood Oak's very unique. Not to mention the Undead Leviathan. Do you have anything else that you're?
Oh, nothing. Well, the only monsters that's really on my sculpting table at the moment is one of the centerpiece models I'm going to do for the second edition release, which is a giantess. So
female giant.
yeah, so use the same rules as the bog standard giant, but because there's not really that many female giant models out there.
Because they're so alike in male voice and appearance that it's taken for men, and that giants just pop out of the ground. No, sorry, I just watched Lord of the Rings recently.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think when it comes to fantasy, especially the miniatures, like people expect all the women in the women or female models to all be very feminine and beautiful and stuff. And that's the thing, when you are working with such small scales, sometimes you do have to kind of over exaggerate female features to make them look like women. Like one of the criticisms people used to have, like, because I really wanted to try and introduce more female characters into ArcWorlde, especially in like Troubles in the North and stuff like that. And I remember quite a few people saying that the female spear guard and shield guard for the Norsefold didn't look like women. And I was like, oh, they don't look like women because they haven't got their tits out and wearing high heels. Well, no, they're warriors. They're meant to, they don't exactly go walk around wearing makeup and stuff. They're fighters. And I think that's the kind of the theme that I want to do with the female giant. She's a giant. She's not going to be wearing makeup. But she's, she's got long braided hair and stuff, and I've tried to give her, make her look more feminine than the male giant. I mean, she hasn't got a beard, for example, which kind of helps.
She could have.
Yeah.
But I did talk a bit about that on my ramble last week. That the female halflings we've done, I think those are far superior to the male ones. Take the captain, for instance. That was actually dead and buried, but we, with a bit of push and a bit of help from a few friends, we got it back. And I really love that model because I think that's so much better. Also, the female cook you did years back. Also, I think that's a better looking female model than the male cook. So yes, you have to over exaggerate them. You see that on the Hero Hobbleshire model captain. That the hips are a bit wider, the bottom is a bit more rounded than the male ones, but it is actually quite a lot better looking. I think it's something about them than just it makes them stand out a bit.
Yeah, well, I try my best. I mean, as I said, I am restricted by obviously the scale, but also my style. My style is very chunky and over exaggerated and stuff. So it's very difficult to try and do subtle things, which would be, I mean, if you want some really nice female models, I mean, Annie, the dice bag lady at Bad Squiddo Games, right? She has an entire range, or she makes a personal mission to stock good female characters. And that's the thing, the market is out there. People want to represent women in their armies and in their war bands, but there just aren't that many people making models for female characters that aren't just, parodies of fantasy stereotypes that have been around for years. And that's kind of something that I want to do. I want to kind of introduce more female characters
and not having them be pinups.
Yeah, I mean, one person criticized me saying, "Oh yeah, but you've got female wild elf characters and they're naked and they've got their tits out and things." And I say, "Well, yeah, but so are the guys.
It's not the tits that's hanging. It's not the tits that's hanging out.
Hence, I can see his balls in this one.
That's the thing, the same concept. I'm not doing it to titillate it because they're meant to be, wild creatures that don't have much use for clothes."
Yep.
So Martin has come in a few comments. I'll just add him into the conversation. He says that right. He recommends Fishman as a faction, but also about female Baywalks, and he says that really likes. So that Crimson Rita reminds him of Red Sonja, winky smiley.
Right. Well,
So yeah, female Baywalks. You did one. You
yeah, I do have a
haven't you?
female Bayok. Grammar Gator, who is a model for the Bayoks, is a female model. But once again, it's something that I'd really like to do. But I mean, my Bayoks are amongst my worst-selling miniatures of the entire range, and my worry is that if I do female Bayoks, they'll be even worse selling because they're not pretty little pinups.
I think that depends on your liking, isn't it?
Well, I suppose.
There's a fetish for everything.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, Crimson Rita is based on Red Sonja. That's where I got the inspiration from.
Would you please enlighten me? What is Red Sonja? Who's that?
Red Sonja is a comic book character that's been around for years and years. In fact, I'll send you a link over Facebook. I actually got the.
You just post it in the Hangout thread, so people can sort of like link to it if they like.
Copy image. Sorry, where do I post this? Oh, here we go.
And also a movie by Birgitte Nielsen.
There we go.
Martin says.
Hmm?
He also says that it's a movie by Birgitte Nielsen.
Well, yeah, it was actually our guest writer and also project manager of Troubles in the North, Paul L. Matthews. His wife suggested the character of Crimson Rita because she was telling me about getting a Red Sonja tattoo. And she was saying, oh, it'd be really funny if you did a character based on her in ArcWorlde. And I was like, oh, yeah, that would be quite... Because the character of Red Sonja, she's meant to be a very powerful warrior and stuff, but she is essentially running around in a chainmail bikini. So I thought it was quite interesting to do a halfling character based on her, but just not sexualized at all. You know, and that's why I called her Crimson Rita, because Rita isn't exactly the most, alluring name in the world, and I imagine it to be a lot more down to earth. Like, why would I walk around in a chainmail bikini? That's stupid.
Let's cover the goods. Protecting yourself. And also, I think that's something that's a bit stupid with the all fantasy female stereotypes. Is that the females are barely naked, and the armor they do have is it's like just a metal bra or bikini.
But then again,
it doesn't make sense at all.
Yeah, but then you do have like barbarian guys who are
wear a T-cell,
muscle, 7 feet tall, and I think you could make the argument that the projection of men of the male stereotype in fantasy is very strong and powerful and stuff, whereas the projection of women in fantasy is kind of focusing more on their sexuality rather than their kind of physical prowess, which I do agree with. But I think things are changing slowly over time. Like there are more kind of representations of powerful non-sexualized women in in the public eye, should I say, in like pop culture. Yeah. I think it's good. I think it's a good progression, and hopefully it will continue for many years to come.
Indeed. Conan the Barbarian is also that in that movie, Red Sonja. Awesome. Martin says.
Awesome.
So that's sort of top tip for the day. We're doing other entertainment news than ArcWorlde. We tend to get a bit single-minded in these. By the way, when I was creating this Hangout, it was this option: does this Hangout, sort of like this live stream, feature product placement?
Ooh.
And I just quickly ignored it because it's not product placement. It is product. So like because all we want to do, well, basically all I want to do with this painting session is ArcWorlde. So yeah.
Well, that's it. I didn't want to come on here painting up the rest of my Fortress Redemption. I thought that would have been quite good.
Are you welcome to do so? It's not that, but I think I have a few other painting projects that have been lying in the cabinet for years, and I've never really bothered taking them out again because I'm not playing that game anymore. It was I have 2 units of Wood Elf Wild Riders, and the riders themselves are nearly done. I think I have a few more highlights on something, and the horses are done, and the bases need to be done, and they've been sat in the box for ever since 2009, I think. Because I don't use them. I don't bother completing them because I'm not going to use them.
Yeah.
But I think the moment I'm going to play with them or could be using them, then they might be reappearing on my painting
I'm surprised
station.
you don't use a Kings of War army, Dagfin.
I'm working on it. But it takes one model at a time, and they are the Legion of Rahordia, these halfling army. So I'm going to double up the Cushington Brigade as a Kings of War army.
Yeah.
But it takes time to get through models when I do one model a week at best.
I mean, have you thought about batch painting?
I have, and that's what I normally do. What I did before. But when I started at ArcWorlde, I figured that was such a small range, so I can enjoy painting each model at a time and take my time with them and just be enjoying it. And then I discovered that the creator of ArcWorlde managed to sculpt the models faster than I managed to paint them. So the mountain is winning, even though I'm trying to be extremely restrictive in what I buy.
Mm.
So it's not that I don't want more, it's more that I just I really don't feel I can buy a lot of stuff that could have been going to the family holiday, money spent on family holiday instead of lying in my cabinet.
I mean, it must be quite difficult for you. I mean, I'm sure it's the same with you, Andrew. Being family men, you have to, a lot of the time, I imagine, put your family first rather than your hobby, which I can imagine can dig into the coffers for new models quite a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Depending on how understanding your partners are with the hobby, because I know that I have quite a few miniatures guys who I've spoken to over the years. It's been like, oh yeah, don't tell the wife that I've bought this. She'll be mad if she knows that I've been spending money on toys and things like that. So I can imagine that's quite a difficult scenario.
I've got the upper hand in that one because whenever she pulls out that argument, well, she doesn't even dare do it because I've just referred to her pile of yarn and knitting project, and just say, right, you got your hobby, I got mine. And she got to come back and say, right, well, at least my hobby is being used for something useful. And she does have a point, but still, it is. We both know that it's a hobby, and we have to be restrictive in how much money we put into a hobby because Yeah, it is a small part of the budget.
I mean, it must be really good to have a partner who is as creative as you are.
Well, that's sort of like the fun part of it, because she just enjoyed the activity, and she enjoys finding project. The creativity of knitting isn't really that. It cannot be compared to sculpting at all, for instance. Because when you knit, you basically just follow a pattern, and you do whatever the recipe says you have to do.
Yeah.
I think it's a bit more like painting historical miniatures, because you basically just do what you're told to do. But you have to, but when you come up with it, it's sort of like she goes to these recipes and she looks at them and I say, right, I like this one and I like this one, and how can I combine that, and what color should I use, and what yarn should I use? And once you've done with that, the creativity of it is gone, and it's basically just problem solving and figuring out how to do it.
Yeah. But then again, some people prefer, like, it's like people who enjoy those painting by colors things, or like, coloring in things. Like, some people prefer kind of open-ended creativity where they're completely free to do whatever they want. But other people like kind of guided creativity. So they, by the process of following steps, it's like people who put together like ethics kits.
Airflex, yeah.
Yeah. They get pleasure out of following instructions and getting it right, and that's where their enjoyment lies.
Yeah, exactly.
Depends on what kind of hobbies you're into. I mean, that kind of stuff isn't for me. Like, I don't get enjoyment out of following things to the letter. Like, I much prefer to be my creativity to be free and open and do my own thing. I mean, I suppose the only thing I really feel gratification out of by following instructions is putting furniture together.
IKEA.
Yeah, it sounds really stupid, but like, I've never really been like a DIY guy. I've always been the kind of the arty. In my family, there's two brothers. There's me and my younger brother Will. Like, he's always been the very practical one. He's like always been very interested in like practical projects, DIY, and things like that. He's studying product design at university at the moment, and he's wonderful. He's very, very, very good with his hands. He's very logical, problem solving, that kind of thing. Whereas I've always been the kind of the arty-farty creative one. So I felt really kind of stupidly proud of myself when I managed to put together a piece of IKEA furniture by myself for the first time. I was like, oh my God, yes, I can do this. It's always been like, oh no, Alex, you don't know how to do that. Like, get your dad to do it, or get your brother to help you out to do that. But actually doing it for myself and by myself, it was extremely gratifying. It was kind of a similar thing when I recently bought a graphics card for my computer, and I was chatting to my dad about it. He was like, "Oh, are you sure you wanna? You should call your brother to help you out, or you should call your friends to help you out." And I was like, "No, Dad, I've got this. I can put it in. I can follow instruction, put it in." He was like, "Oh, you don't want to break." I was like, "I've got this." I did do it, and yeah, I did have to send it back afterwards because it was actually not what I needed. I still put it in, and that glory will live with me eternally.
All right, so we got another one from Mr. Hawks, and he says that, and what about Jim Henderson and his puppets? Are those also some kind of inspiration for you, Alex, like the movie The Dark Crystal?
I haven't actually seen The Dark Crystal, but it's not the first time that someone has mentioned Jim Henderson and his puppets and stuff, but just that kind of whimsical fantasy style has always been a massive inspiration to me. I mean, I've gone on and said this multiple times in multiple kind of interviews and chats and things like that. My biggest inspiration is Discworld and Terry Pratchett, and particularly the illustrations of Paul Kidby. Like when I was growing up and developing my own style, like the way that he drew characters and things was immensely influential with my style. But that kind of, I mean, another example is, I can't remember the name of the artist, but the book series is called The Edge Chronicles. Hang on, let me look it up. The Edge Chronicles. Let's have a look. Let's see if it actually tells you the artist. No. Hold on. Meet the creators. There we go. Chris Riddell. That's him. He is a wonderful, wonderful artist. So if you guys ever want to look up some cool stuff, like give him a search.
Right, could you post those in the Hangout comment as well on the chat group, or in the maybe even in the comment section below in the video?
I'll try.
On the YouTube. So both the the Crimson Rita thing and Terry Pratchett, because Mr. Hawks here says that so he has to read the books of Terry Pratchett then. And he also says, what books do you recommend? It's also a question I've been thinking about that I want to, in order to get a bit more wider aspect to what ArcWorlde is. We probably need to understand Pratchett.
Yeah. I think if you're going to read Terry Pratchett, you have to read from the very beginning, don't you?
Well, not necessarily.
Discworld.
This is a topic of debate amongst Terry Pratchett fans. I mean, it's widely regarded that his first few books aren't as good as his latest stuff, because they were very much like standalone pieces. The stuff that they talk about usually wasn't canon and things. I think he was finding his feet, and he was creating Discworld as a living, breathing land. And it wasn't really until his fifth or sixth book that he really started to kind of link everything together. And he found his voice with his writing. I mean, I could be speaking heresy to some Discworld fans, but I would say, let me just see what the timeline is. Discworld.
So is Terry Pratchett Discworld only, or does he have standalone novels that could be?
Oh, he does have standalone novels as well, but the Discworld is kind of like the overarching thing. I would say probably I would start off with Mort, because I'm not a massive fan of The Colour of Magic and The Light Fantastic. As I said, I think the thing that really what I love about Discworld is how it all works together. How the same characters in the same world all links, and it all works. And those earlier novels, it was still, let's say, in the creative primordial soup.
Sure.
So I would say, I mean, my personal kind of favorite, what's I'm looking for? Favorite series is the Sam Vimes series, which kind of follows a story of the captain of the guard the city guard of like the main kind of city in Discworld. It's called Ankh-Morpork, but it is essentially London. And I remember reading an interview with Terry Pratchett, and he was saying the inspiration for that series was the fact that in every fantasy novel and every fantasy like thing, you see the hero rushing through the streets of the city, and all the guards are coming to try and capture them, and they're slashing them aside and things. And he was thinking, well, those guards have stories. They're just doing a job. They woke up that morning, put on their boots, and went to work as a policeman, essentially. And he wanted to really explore that kind of mentality. And it's wonderful because it kind of encapsulates like the fantasy side, but also like crime dramas and stuff. You follow them trying to solve crimes, and Pratchett goes into the runnings of the city. And it's so amazingly researched how, like he talks about the way that commerce works and where the city gets its eggs and all these tiny little details that just make the world seem so real. And that's what really attracts me to Pratchett, as well as the humor and stuff like that. But it's so human. He breathes such a believable life into these kind of characters. And another really interesting thing that he does is he uses like species tensions between humans and dwarves and trolls and things all living within the city. He uses it as a metaphor for racial tensions in the real world, which is really interesting to kind of it feels like a really interesting way to address and discuss those particular things without actually putting names to things.
And not taking sides in a current subject.
Definitely. I mean, he uses metaphor wonderfully, and he, as I said, he uses the fantasy palette to paint a really compelling picture of modern day life and how humans work and how society works. And it's beautiful. Like, I have so much passion for the Discworld series and so much joy. And when Sir Terry passed away a few years ago, it was the first time I felt genuine grief for someone who I'd never met, but I felt as if he'd been there the whole time with me growing up, because his books were such a big part of my childhood, and I wouldn't be doing what I was doing today without him. So I kind of felt like I'd lost a mentor.
I see. So like I think that's some part of being within the public eye, isn't it? That you lay your soul so wide open, and your work is clear for everyone to see, and people really do feel like you're part of their life, but they're not. It's like music. So you have music that's been with you through important parts of your life, and you feel so like intimate with the artist and the musicians, and they don't even know that you're there.
Oh God, yeah. It is such a strange thing how a person can have such an impact on your life without ever meeting you, or even even knowing you existed. Yeah, but I think there's something quite pure in that. And it's funny because there's been a number of, I've been a part of quite a few discussions where people enjoy a piece of work. That's whether it's a film with an actor in it, or a piece of music or something. And then they find out that the person who created that wasn't the person who they thought they were. They'd done something which was bad, or they were just not nice people. And they're saying, well, does this mean that I can't like that piece of music anymore? Or does it mean that I can't, watch this film anymore because this person has done that? And I'm always of the impression that you should separate the artist or the creator from the piece of work, because you know, just because they are bad people doesn't mean that the things that they make are bad people. I mean, sorry, are bad things.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my personal opinion. Like,
I think you're into some sort of like borderlining subjects here, because let's say you have an issue that is what sort of film or a piece of music that you really love, but you don't really pay attention to it. But you just, oh, this music just goes straight to my. You go humming it all along, and all of a sudden you realize that maybe through an interview of some sort, and the artist then clearly says that, right, this music, well, that he is or she is sort of like a racist, for instance, or is or has other values that you really don't like. And once you do that, you realize, all right, we are definitely not on accord on this subject, and fundamentally disagree. And then I think on one point you can still allow the music to be the music, but you will approach it differently. You will sort of like scan it. What is this song really about? What subjects do they talk about? Is it religion? Is it human rights? Is it economics and politics? And can I enjoy it, or can I sort of like approve of it?
I think as long as the piece isn't derivative of the particular part of that person that you don't like,
or share values or opinions.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but like, for example, a lot of people don't like Mel Gibson because of things that he's said or done or whatever. Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't enjoy his films. Like, I like Mad Max, I like Lethal Weapon. Just because I might not like the actor, because that's the thing, that film isn't just about him.
No, quite the opposite.
There are producers, there are other actors in there. You know, hundreds of people worked on those pieces. It seems like a shame to, you know, completely disregard it just because one part of that cog you didn't like. And it's the same with music as well. Like, I don't know, say for example, the band The Lost Prophets. Like, quite famously, the lead singer turned out to be a horrendous paedophile. Like, he's in prison, he did horrible, horrible things. But it's such a shame because, you know, the name of that band is in the dirt now. They'll never be able to come back from that reputation. However, it wasn't just him. There were other members of the band, there were the producers, there was everything. So many people worked on those pieces of music, yet that, you know, no one will ever listen to them again because of what this person did.
And on some point, I think it's true, because you don't want to be associated with a pedophile. But as you say, it was one guy who did it, but still think you would approach it a bit differently. And I think as a radio station or something like that, you have to be completely you have to cover your bases, basically.
Yeah, of course.
Because that's something else. But if you as a person, what you have in your playlists is up to you, basically. So you can take the stand for yourself and right. I don't mind. Bad guys can make good music.
Yeah, well,
but I'm very clear that I do not want to share those values. And then again, you might know that you are a soft soul, so to speak, manipulated soul, and then say, right, I don't take the chance. I know what I stand for now, what sort of my opinions are, and I do not want to be. I don't want to risk the influence.
I don't know. Like, obviously people are allowed their own opinion. Like, if they want to not like something because they don't like the person in it, or a person in it, that is absolutely fine. All I'm saying is that sometimes it's a shame that the work of multiple people can be devalued because of the reputation of one of the people involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is unfortunately how we as a group work, species work, isn't it?
Yeah.
We tend to enjoy grouping things together to easily understand it. Like we did back to fantasy, like what are elves?
Yeah.
Okay, I got elves sorted. They are long living, long fair-haired, magical beings that live in Lothlorien and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah. Before we go way too deep into the political scheme of things, should we? I've heard you got a bit of snow over in England yesterday.
We have, and it was excellent. However, I missed out on almost all of it because I was inside working.
Oh, too
I
bad.
kind of gazed longingly at it out of my bedroom window whilst I was sculpting, but other than that, I didn't really make the most of it, which is a bit of a shame. And also, for some reason, Nottingham seems to have kind of been
Avoided it.
storm because everywhere else seems to have got loads of snow, but we only got a bit of like a light drizzle of it. I mean, it happened again quite recently. Andrew, my dad was sending me pictures of up north having some snow. Was it last week or the week before?
I think it was like it was about last week or week before. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just started to get little flurries of it like today, but it's just not setting or anything.
No.
But like it's like say down south and everywhere else has got. I don't know how much they've got. They've got a lot, haven't they?
All right. Because the follow-up information from that is that it's come to Norway as well.
You mean
And I was
eating snow? No, I don't believe.
yeah, and I had to.
Do you need any more snow up there?
Yeah, we do. It disappears every summer, actually. But it came. I had to go out and shovel the driveway free of snow this morning. I think this morning it was 7 inches
Wow.
of fresh powder. It was fantastic. And then again, it came 2 or 3 more inches during the day. So that was.
It's amazing how countries like yourselves have that much snowfall and everything like that, but we get like 2 inches and we're all like in standstill.
Yeah. I had a few gentlemen over from England earlier this year and took them out hiking, and we stumbled up across this, drove over this mountain pass. You might know them, Alex.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah, it was yourself and Adam, of course. And we came across this road that goes up to a lookout point, and we said, right, I want to take you up here. It's a road. It's just you could just drive straight up and have a great view. But it was closed due to snow, and we had the most fantastic hike in the snow. What was it, like 5 inches?
Oh, brilliant! I still need to put that video together.
You need to do that. I can't do my unboxing until you do.
Oh well, once things have died down a little bit with business, I need to get these polys finished. But I'll start putting it all together. To be honest, I can't think of the right music to go over it all.
How about something from Grieg?
Oh, excellent! So much fun. Like I've been, all my friends are very very jealous of my Norwegian adventures, and they're saying, "Oh, would your friends like?" Because I was telling them about Helga as well, like taking us to mountains and stuff, and they're all really super keen to do it. So
Yeah.
Would you be up for another visit at some point?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be great to have, as I said, the have more people coming over, maybe earlier in the year, so we can take more like hiking as when the mountain's still free of snow, and we can just go long days.
Yeah.
Either that or take it further out in the winter, so have a proper like winter excursion.
I mean, I was telling them about Helga's skiing adventures, and they were very intrigued about that. And I've never been skiing personally, but a few of my friends go every year, and they're really, really into it. So
it's like cross country or downhill.
Downhill skiing.
Hmm.
So like Helga was showing us videos of him skiing down the big mountain pass that he took Adam and I that day.
Nice.
Hmm.
Oh, brilliant.
And the thing they do with that skiing is like telemark skiing, where they have loose heel. And you use the skis to walk up the mountainside, just like cross-country skis.
Yeah.
And then you come up to the top and you strap everything onto your backpack and stuff, and get ready, and you just wind yourself down.
Exploring.
It is great fun. So yeah, I'd definitely be up to having you over another year, another time.
That would be excellent.
So probably need to launch a few miniatures before then.
Pardon?
We probably need to launch a few more miniatures before then.
Definitely, if I'm going to be able to afford everything.
I think that's probably the downside of coming to Norway. It is that things are a bit more expensive.
Yeah, I mean, you must be laughing. I keep saying, but it probably explains why I have Scandinavian customers, because it means they can buy a model from me for less than the price of a cup of coffee it costs you guys over there. It's mad.
Yeah. Well, and the prices are a bit pumped up.
Well, as you were explaining, the average wage is much higher than it is in the UK as well, so it kind of balances out. But for us poor Brits from the third world country, we get there and we're like, £12 for a pint of beer.
Yeah, beer and tobacco are so like additional taxed because it's not healthy. So it's like
Jesus Christ. We're getting a lot out.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Adam and when we weren't being cradled by the generous bosom of Dagfinn and his lovely family, Adam and I essentially lived on bread and cheese. We were having... I do miss that. Is it brunost?
Brunost, yeah.
Brunost. Oh,
goat cheese.
That brown cheese.
Well, we discovered it wasn't really brown cheese. It's made out of another part of the milk.
Yeah, it's made out of the whey rather than the curds, isn't it?
I have no idea what you were talking about, but you might be right. The sort of like terms you're using is not known to me, so
the fluid bit rather than the chunky bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think that's true.
Well, surely your father-in-law will know.
Most likely. But yeah, as I said, it's all like the English expressions as well that I don't really are familiar with. All right. It's 11:30 at my place, so I don't know how much longer you want to keep going.
I mean, we can call it a night if you'd like.
Yeah, I was just yeah, well, got another comment here. Beer is a healthy thing because it's isotonic and the hop is calming you down. So, like, I think we can argue about health issues of beer. One thing we can probably agree on is that it's good.
Oh yeah.
And
it's quite interesting. I have quite a few Scandinavian friends, and Jonas, who is Danish, he is a massive fan of English cider. So apparently you don't get that much cider in Scandinavia. And
Danish, in Denmark at least.
yeah, and Andrew find this quite funny. Jonas's favourite cider is Strongbow.
Brilliant.
Strongbow is delicious. I'm saying you do realise that is like the cheapest pub cider you get, and they said, no, but it's brilliant. Like, it's so dry and crisp, and I really like it. Because his point is that all the Scandinavian ciders, like Recordlig and things like that, they're all very sweet.
Yeah.
Whereas he prefers them to be dry, bitter, not bitter, but you know what I mean. So that's why Strongbow so much, which amused me no end. So when he came up, because it cost them, it's so expensive to buy in Denmark because they have to import everything. So when I took him to a supermarket and showed you can buy him like a 2-litre bottle for about £3, he lost his mind. Like, oh my God.
Brilliant.
All right. So this has been a great evening.
Sorry I haven't been talking that much, guys.
No need to apologise.
I think you just... Go on, sorry.
Go ahead, please.
No, I'm just saying that, once you concentrate on painting, that's all you can do, and it's just nice listening to people as well, talking about stuff.
It's sounding a bit out, yeah. But I think trying to get a word in between Alex and myself, it's probably not the easiest task.
I do have a tendency to ramble.
I like the rambling. It's all good. It's nice to hear different people's opinions on, like I say, how they perceive different things, and with, like I say, with Terry Pratchett, and how we all look at miniatures in all different manners. But we all, fundamentally all love playing the games.
And I think that's also something that we talked about. People come from different ways of life and different communities. I think as long as you got something in common, you can like politics be politics. Let's work be work. Let class be class. Whatever. We meet at this gaming club because we both really much enjoy wargaming. And then you have people being into soft music, jazz music, heavy metal music, and they can all enjoy each other's company.
Yeah, I think it is, as you say, it's one of the beauties of wargaming as a hobby, is that you get so many, different people coming together for the love of one thing, and the only thing you really get to argue about is the kind of war games you play.
Yeah. And you can sort of share on it. I think I saw a brilliant advertisement from Denmark, I believe it was. We're putting people in boxes. So like a huge amount of people, and they started dividing people into different type of boxes than what we'll normally do, because at first they thought, like, okay, everybody who has make more than, let's say, 300,000 Danish kroner a year can come on and stand on this side. And in the beginning, people were like, yeah, right, I knew that. And then it was a bit different kind of approach. Like everyone who's been growing up with a single mom can take a step forward. And all of a sudden, you started to see people divided or united in stranger ways. And I think it was a very clear message that we are, as a species, quick to sort of think we know people just because we know something about them. I thought that was a very interesting thing to yeah, just to what do we really make out of other people? Just because we think we know them, don't really mean that we really do know them.
It is interesting.
I think they did something similar in America. I think it's the same thing where you have the divide, and then it was just sort of I don't know. No, that might have been. No, forget about it. So I think it was something similar. But yeah, you start seeing people like in different lights, or you. I think they then start looking at other people going, "Oh my God, I didn't realise that you have had to go through all that." And let's say you do see people in different lights, and the judgment as well is sort of taken away as well, isn't it, from all that?
Yeah,
I think I saw one. That was nothing to do with that. It was like a high school or college thing. The teacher took the entire class out on a field, and he's held up $100 bill, and he stood at the end of it. I said, "Right, we're going to do a race, and the first one over gets this $100 bill." And then he started. But before we do, I'm going to ask you some questions. If you can say yes on those, you're allowed to take 2 steps forward. And those questions will be like, if you grew up in a home with both your parents, take 2 steps forwards. Take 2 steps forwards if you never had to help around the house. Take 2 steps forwards if you had somebody to help you with your homework.
Yeah.
All those questions were based on something that they have nothing to do with what the kids have done themselves.
Yeah.
And then he said at the end of it, all right, everybody has to complete their races. And the ones in front were told to turn around and have a look at the ones at the back. I said that, right? None of you got where you are in this race because of what you have done. It's what your parents have done for you. And the guys at the back still have to do their race. And those who were like Afro-Americans with probably athletic abilities as well. And so that some of these guys will probably destroy you in a straight out race. But they still had to do their race from their position, and you have to do it from yours. And I was also like, shit, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it was talking about kind of privilege, societal privilege and things.
Indeed. All right, so if we're calling a night soon, should we do another one at some other point, or should we just leave that open to the community too?
Well, we'll see what the response is from the community.
Yeah, because I'd be happy to. We could do one every month for all I care. I think it's a great thing to have, just chat and talk to paint, and as you say, Andrew, have someone for company while you do your hobby time.
Yeah, definitely.
And even if you don't speak as much, it's good to just know that there's
people there, and yeah, painting it up or wanting to engage in the actual conversation about anything to do with ArcWorlde. And I guess as well, I think we're a community there. We'd like to ask questions about the game and the rules and stuff like that. So hopefully,
about ArcWorlde, just chatting.
Yeah,
chatting about life. It's nice.
Yeah.
Get stuff off your mind and things like that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So yeah, I'm just going to do done this few more metal.
Just realised this has been live.
Yeah. All right. It was great having you along as well, Alex. I think all of us Arc fans enjoy probing your
what?
Your mind and your so like plans and your thoughts from where you've been and where you're planning to go.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking maybe when I come up to doing second edition and stuff, especially during the Kickstarter, if I do a Kickstarter and things, to do lots of kind of group chats and video chats and things like that, just so people have that opportunity to ask questions and discuss things, and it's all part of the hobby, isn't it? And I think people might enjoy the chance, especially when the Kickstarter's running, to be able to ask me questions and stuff about what to expect and what to look forward to.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'll be up for that. All right, so I'll call it a night then.
Yeah,
insights regarding ArcWorlde Kickstarters and so on. Thanks for that, says our trusted viewer, Mr. Hooks.
Well, thank you very much for logging on and listening to us chat shit for almost 3 hours.
We actually got 5 viewers. Oh, that's a nice one. Right, so to you, 4 others. I think one of them must be your dad, Alex.
Yeah, probably.
Mr. Rob. Now's the last chance to use the comment chat section to get a few bits and bobs out of the mind of Alex Huntley, and then if not, you find us on the Facebook channel, Facebook group. Sorry.
Well, last chance to ask any questions about anything that you want me to say without giving me chance to actually think about what I say before I say it, which means I can imagine there's going to be a lot of stuff that I've said tonight that I'll think back and think, oh no, I shouldn't have said that. Oh, I should have kept that secret and things.
Rob says good night.
Yeah,
thanks for spending the time with us, Rob.
Good night, Rob.
Also, Dad, how are you on my Facebook, not my YouTube account? Because that's my account and I'm logged into it now.
When do we get to see Trolls in the South, East, and West?
Ooh, well,
or will there be such a natural release?
There's one particular release that I'm dying to do. I think I might have to wait until after the second edition has been announced, but it's a bit of a financial risk, let's say, because it's a concept that is new, that hasn't been done in the miniatures community before, and it's either going to be really cool and a really new kind of way of spinning things, or it's going to be a massive flop and no one will want that because it doesn't have Tolkien-esque stuff running around. It is ArcWorlde, but it's a new spin. I'll probably talk to you guys about it when we're not public. Yeah, it's really exciting. Looking forward to doing it in the future. So we'll have to see how second edition goes.
Sounds interesting.
So it does.
We did one question I don't think we really talked too much about was the monsters. You said you're going to do a female giant, but other than that, would you do any other? So like the Blood Oak was like this bizarre new monsters coming out.
Well, that's the thing. Like all those kind of really bizarre like designs and stuff, the ones that have really stood out. Like they've just kind of come to me. Like I didn't sit down and think, right, how do I make a monster? I'll do this, this, and this, and this. It's more kind of like, oh, that's a cool idea. I'll sculpt that. Like, I suppose the last kind of creature design I had that kind of came to me like that was the idea of like a dragonfly dragon. So you know how ArcWorlde doesn't have flying dragons, but I thought of maybe having one where it's scales on its back kind of turned into insect-like wings.
I like that.
Cool.
Almost like a demon fly.
Yeah. So it would be like a dragon-sized flying creature.
Sweet. Because I was, I remember when we were over here, I tossed you the idea of a demon fly. It's like a dragonfly with a scorpion tail. But yeah, dragonfly. Dragonfly.
Dragonfly. Yeah.
The double D fly.
Yeah. But I was thinking of doing new twists, because like one of the things I want to do is, if I do the Kickstarter release for ArcWorlde Second Edition, I would love to do it on the 5-year anniversary of this launch of the first Kickstarter.
Oh.
So I'm aiming for it to be the 1st of August 2018. The first Kickstarter is the 1st of August 2013. And a lot of the models I want to kind of almost be new imaginings of the older stuff. So I had a giant, I had a dragon, and I had a weird creature. So I'm working on the giant now. I'm thinking of maybe doing a forest dragon for like the main dragon. As for the weird creature, who knows what my fevered imagination will dream up.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's very exciting times indeed. I'm very much looking forward to it all.
Sounds interesting. Yeah, Martin says that he really do like the idea of a Arabic halflings.
I think you could make anything halflings, and then somebody would like it. Yeah. I mean, there is an Arab-inspired land in ArcWorlde called Alnir, and that has. I mean, I'd love to kind of explore that as part of it, because one of my original ideas for the Albionicans would be you'd have the core rules, and you'd be able to customize what part of the empire the warband came from. Each of the different countries have different rules that you'd have onto it all. So I was thinking of doing like desert-inspired troops and naval-inspired troops and things. But I don't know. It depends on kind of what the market out there would be for that. Because I just know that no matter what I make, if it's not halflings or trolls, people will just be like, "Meh, should have been a halfling or a troll."
And I think we'll have to let that be the final word for the night, because daddy duties just turned up here, and I have to go put one of my youngest to bed. So thanks for having you along. Thanks for watching, for all of you who did that. And we're looking forward to more Troubles in the North time, and second edition, naturally.
Yeah.
All right, good night.
Nighty night.
Night, guys.
Night night.